Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Old Naruto was in Highschool DxD. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by LUCKYBASTARD6969 and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1. It was 3:59 in the evening. The entire ground of Kuo Academy was silent. The birds were chirping in the trees and the leaves were rustling in the wind. The entire school was completely still with no other evidence of life inside except for the sounds of teachers writing on blackboards and lecturing the students. It was then when the clock struck 4 that a bell was heard announcing the end of the period. The silence that was present before was lost and one could hear the clamor of students coming out of their classes chatting up and heading towards their lockers. The teachers were dismissing their students after giving them their work for home. One third-year high school class was no exception to this. An aging old man with gray hair was standing near the teacher's desk, announcing the homework for the day. "Alright class. Revise on what you learned today in World War I. We will be having a short quiz tomorrow to see how far you have grasped on the subject," said the old man. "Hi Uzumaki-sensei," said the entire class in chorus. A man named Uzumaki left the class. As you may have realized that this was Naruto Uzumaki, an old teacher of history for the higher classes. He was a tall man standing 6'2", which was quite tall among the Japanese population. He had a clean-shaven face as suited for someone of his position and job. He looked to be about in his 50s judging by the wrinkles on his face. He had ordinary brown eyes and he wore some sharp-looking spectacles which made him look like a strict and stern man. "Good evening Uzumaki-sensei," said a passing-by student who bowed towards him. "Good evening Shizukawa-san," said Naruto addressing the student and went to the teacher's lounge. He then went inside and greeted everyone present with a smile. "Good evening everyone." "Good evening Uzumaki-san," said everyone greeting Naruto with a smile. He went to his designated table and started working on some papers that were submitted to him. One of the newer teachers who had just been hired by Kuo asked his associate. "Who's that?" "Oh, the old man. That's Uzumaki-sensei, he's been working here as the history teacher for around 7 years now. He's technically the eldest person in this school and one of the most respectable people in this school," said the associate with a huge amount of respect for the old man. "Is that so? He looks like a very casual person," said the new teacher. "Haha, believe me, he's hardly casual. He is the definition of strictness and professionalism. He hardly is tardy and always does his work on time. He's also very diligent in correcting the papers and seriously strict with the students," said the old hand. "Oh? Then he must be unpopular with the students then," said the new teacher assuming the most probable case. Any strict teacher who is very professional is hardly liked by the students. The most the teacher can get is that they are treated indifferently with respect to the teacher, that he treats everyone fairly, but not that of a close bond that forms between a teacher and student who help each other. Surprisingly, that's hardly the case. Uzumaki-sensei can be pretty strict, but he is actually the most popular teacher with the students. A lot of the other teachers say that they saw him spending time with students and giving them advice on matters. Maybe that might be the reason, but no one knows for sure. Though the reason I stated earlier is why he is popular with the teachers. He helps us out a lot from time to time," said the old hand in the school. Cough cough, "Well, I do appreciate the compliments Hashimoto-sensei, aren't you supposed to be doing something? I believe that you still have the grading for the math quiz written by the students today," said a voice from behind. The pair of men who were talking about the old man in question finally noticed the person in question standing before them. "Hi Uzumaki-sensei," said the now named Hashimoto and immediately went on to work. To say that the freshly hired teacher was intimidated by Naruto's presence was an understatement. He was pissing his pants and hoping that he won't be forming a bad impression. He then looked at Naruto, sizing him up, and finally smiled. "So you are the new chap here, huh? So what do you think about this school? Do you like it here?" asked Naruto while maintaining a friendly smile. "Why yes, sir. I like it very much, sir. The students here seem friendly and are attentive to the classes, and there are no signs of bullying to be found among the classes I taught today," said the new teacher. "I am glad you find it so. What's your name, son? What do you teach?" asked Naruto. "My name is Shinisu Kurosawa, sir. I teach physics." "It's very nice to meet you, sir," said the now named Shinosuke. "It's very nice to meet you, Kurosawa-san. My name is Naruto Uzumaki and I teach history in this school, and drop the sir, call me either as Uzumaki-sensei or Uzumaki-san," said Naruto waving his hand, which calmed down Shinosuke. "Hi Uzumaki-sensei," said Shinosuke. "Well then Kurosawa-san, don't let me keep you from your work. I believe that you have a lot on your hands besides familiarizing with the faculties," said Naruto. "Hi Uzumaki-sensei. "If you would excuse me," said Shinosuke and went ahead. Once he was sure that he was far away from Uzumaki-sensei, he breathed a sigh of relief. He had been very bothered at first as he was speaking with both a senior and an old hand in this school. Though he may not have the authority, Shinosuke figured that he at least should have the influence to have him fired and did not want to create any bad impressions. Hashimoto, who ran off to do his work, was nearby his desk, said, "Don't worry. Uzumaki-sensei may be a strict person, but he is a very nice guy once you get to know him. He won't do anything unreasonable unless you break one of his 2 rules. 2 rules. 1. Never mistreat a student no matter what the reason is. Always be patient with him. 2. Do not touch his ramen without permission. As long as you follow these rules you won't face his wrath." "I get the first rule, but don't touch his ramen. Why is there such a rule?" asked Shinosuke. "'Cause the last time someone did, he was found the next day in the storage room butt naked and tied in a shibari with a mix of orange and pink graffiti all over his body. That person never knew said the culprit was, but we all knew it was Uzumaki-sensei," said Hashimoto while shivering. "How?" asked Shinosuke with confusion. "Simple. The graffiti on his left buttock said raiment stealer and on his right it was infidel," said Hashimoto. "Oh, but why were you staring at his butt if there were writing all over his body?" asked Shinosuke with a tinge of suspicion. Hashimoto turned silent at this. He put a hand on Shinosuke's shoulder and said, "Never mind." On that day, Shinosuke learned 2 things. 1. Don't break the 2 rules of Naruto Uzumaki. 2. To always clench his asshole and protect his butt when in front of Hashimoto-sensei. Coming back, Naruto Uzumaki was a simple man. He was dressed in simple clothes. He had a simple house and a normal but exemplary teacher's record. He did not use any form of motorized vehicle and always took the bus home. On the way, he makes small talk with some of students who take the same route as him and that's it. Once he arrived home, he was greeted by a simple 2-story house with a small garden in front. He said, "I'm home." But what greeted him was mere silence. Nothing else. However, Naruto did not care. He quickly went inside to change from his work clothes and changed into an orange yukata with thin black lines on it. Though there was a big difference. The Naruto who entered the living room was a completely different Naruto. This one was young, about 20 to 25 years old. He had long white hair, but his face, which was decorated with wrinkles, was now without any. His face was without spectacles and his brown eyes had changed to bright blue ones. His old body, which had no muscle mass, looked as if it had undergone a fat-to-fit transformation minus the fat. He went onto the couch and had his dinner while watching the news. Still. Nothing interesting turned up. "Why are you so boring these days, brat?" asked a voice in his head. "I won't say boring, more like peaceful." "So did you enjoy your nap, Kurama, my old friend?" said Naruto through his mind while throwing out the ramen cup into the trash bin and taking some sake out from the fridge. "Yawned, it was pretty good for a nap. I woke up thinking I would find something interesting, but it's your boring ass doing nothing important again," said the now named Kurama. "Well, like I said, it is more peaceful for me even if it is a bit slow," said Naruto. "So how long do you plan on staying here?" asked Kurama. "I am going to retire in 3 years by this identity. So 4 years tops," said Naruto. "Where do you plan on going after that?" asked Kurama. "I don't know. Maybe India or China. The population is both countries are high and makes it easier for us to disappear. What do you think?" asked Naruto. "South India. The place is more peaceful and the weather is good. Doesn't have much of the supernatural over there. Besides, the Hindu gods are friendly even if they are stuck up. Much better than the Chinese immortals." "Agreed," said Naruto. "I better get some sleep now. Need to get to school early tomorrow," said Naruto and went to sleep. Next morning. The alarm blared soundly at 4:30 a.m. which woke up Naruto and made him stop it. He then continued to do his morning rituals. He went out and ran around the city 5 times for his morning workout so that he doesn't put on any weight. He then came back and took a bath at his home at 7 a.m. He transformed back to the old man he once was. He changed into his work clothes once again and put on his glasses. He tidied himself in front of the mirror and had breakfast and once again caught the bus to school, which arrived at 8 a.m. in the morning. School timings were 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. However, he arrived there at 8:10 a.m. So he pretty much had 50 minutes until school started to do whatever work he wanted to. It was a normal day for him. The students greeted him on the way to the teacher's lounge as usual and he greeted them back with a smile. He settled down in his spot and did his usual work. He then moved to his class with his books and a couple of papers. However, he bumped against someone on the way. He looked at the person he bumped. It was one of the 2 great one, he saw Maria's Gremory. She was also part of the class he was taking and he had a friendly relationship with her. She was an unusual sight for a 17-year-old as her body had developed and drastically matured enough to make her look like a professional model. However, the one thing that attracted Naruto's attention was her long and crimson red hair, which he thought to be fitting on her. Rias, who had bumped into him, immediately bowed and said, "I am sorry for bumping into you, Uzumaki-sensei." Naruto waved her off and said, "It's alright, Gremory-san." Rias then noticed Naruto collecting the papers and said, "Let me help you with that, sensei." She then bent down on the floor to collect the papers for Naruto. Naruto, who noticed this, said, "Thank you, dear." Rias shook her head, "No, it is my fault in the first place. You need not thank me." Naruto, however, continued to stare right at her with mixed feelings in his heart. Rias, who noticed his continued stare, looked at him and asked curiously, "Sensei?" Naruto, who heard the call, immediately shook off his thoughts and said, "It's nothing. Carry on to your class. You have a test now." "Hi, sensei," said Rias, but her mind was elsewhere and not on the test. She wanted to know what caused the Uzumaki to stare at her like that, but she filed that question for later. The rest of the day had passed without any interference or anything unusual. Another day. Another casual day. "But that won't happen to me, won't it?" sighed Naruto as he saw the infamous trio moving towards the kendo club. "Those hormonal fools are at it again. Here I thought that Issei would mature a little after he joined the devils," thought Naruto. "You really think that? After knowing that joining the devils may make him even a bigger pervert due to devil customs allowing harems to be formed?" asked Kurama. "Well, you have a point, but becoming aware of the supernatural must have at least made him take a more serious outlook at life," thought Naruto. "I guess. Though you have a duty to do now, don't you?" asked Kurama. Naruto did not say anything and made his way to the three raging perverts. He then went behind them and said, "If you guys are trying to peek at the kendo club, you should make a better effort at finding a better hiding spot than this. I will give you a 1/5 for stealth, 0.5 for creativity." "Ha! What the? The Fu Uzumaki-sensei. Shit. It isn't what it looks like," said Issei. "Who's there?" said a voice from inside the club room. "Run," said Issei and immediately jet out of there, but was tripped by Naruto, who kept his leg in the way. He then said, "Where are you going? I thought you came here to appreciate the female body. The girls are coming out now. You can appreciate all you want now," said Naruto. The girls had arrived just on time and looked at Naruto. "Good evening, Uzumaki-sensei. The girls and I were about to catch these three little perverts for peeking at us. Can we handle this ourselves?" asked Caddis with a tight grip on her shinai. "Good evening, Caddis-san, you can have them. After you finish with them, send them to me, alright? I need to discuss something with them. Try not to mess up their faces too bad," said Naruto, leaving the area and going back to his office. "Oh, damn it to hell," said all three perverts, complaining. "Alright boys. Time to face the music," said Caddis. "Oh shit. Mamacita, please, not the face. Not the. Oh shit, here we go again," said Issei and sighed and started getting the beatings. Maybe Issei did mature a little, but not in the way that Naruto thought he would. Later. The three boys were beaten black and blue by the girls. Naruto was here glaring at each of the boys and giving them the talk about what they did. It was already 5:30 p.m. "Do you know what you guys did wrong?" asked Naruto. "Peeping while the girls were changing, sir," said Motohama. "No. That's not what you did wrong," said Naruto in a sagely manner. "What?" asked all three boys in chorus. "Wait. If we are not here for peeping at the girls, then what are we here for?" asked Issei in a confused manner. "You are here not because you were peeping, you are here because you suck at hiding yourselves and evidently got caught red-handed while you were peeping," said Naruto. Issei blanked at this and asked, "What's the difference?" Naruto smiled and said, "The difference is that the first one is the reason and the second one is the cause. I called you here because of the cause." He then said with wisdom in his voice, which would have sounded like age-old wisdom if it were not for the fact what he was saying was controversial. "Peeping at women is an art. One must always know oneself and his body best before he engages at the art of peeping. One's eyesight must be sharp as an eagle to look at the curvaceous and voluptuous female body. His other senses must also be on high alert so that he can notice his surroundings." The three boys started listening to his sermon on peeping with bright and curious eyes before they begged him to continue. Naruto smiled at that and continued his speech on the art of peeping as he had learned from his age-old mentor. This sermon went on for an hour before it ended with Naruto's final sentence. "This is the art of peeping. Know that the peeper and his target are not always the predator and the prey respectively. They are relative with the positions. Once the peeping Tom is caught, then he is the prey and the victim is the predator. So always be prepared to get hunted as you hunt your targets. We will Uzumaki-sensei. You have enlightened us," said all three boys with more vigor to peep than ever before. Naruto smiled, but he then turned serious and said, "Now then. To the topic of the said crime itself. This is the third time this month that you boys got caught. The only reason I allowed the kendo team to beat you is that they don't pursue this matter with the police. They had enough witnesses to throw you boys in juvie hall. I don't need to remind you what the law mandates for breaking privacy, do I? The three boys started sweating at this and shook their heads. They knew well enough what the punishments were. They got lucky. Naruto, who saw this, nodded his head and said. Good. I am not going to talk about this matter with you anymore. I understand that your hormones are at an all-time high, so you have some perverted tendencies, but put it under a limit, guys. Distract yourself with some hobbies if you feel inclined to do those things again. Issei, I know you joined the ORC, so go do those work. Mitsuda, take up athletics again so that it may provide you some extra credit for your graduation. Motohama, if you don't want to study books, then write them. I heard that you had a good talent in writing or pick up photography, but do it in the wild. There are plenty of those wildlife photography competition around here, and I am sure that you will win if you put your heart into it. Oh, come on, sensei. You just got us fired up with your speech on peeping, said Motohama. I instructed you on the art of peeping so that next time you do it, you will not get into trouble. I like you guys because you don't go far and beyond and take pictures of the girls and upload them on the internet. Trust me when I say that if you did, this conversation would have been a whole lot different. Peeping is harmless as long as the parties involved don't do anything beyond that. The three boys turned serious and Issei said, no sensei. We know that we may harm the girls' privacy and dignity by peeping, but we will never share of what we saw to anyone else as we know that it will harm their future. Naruto nodded his head, good that you understand the consequences of doing so. I don't want this to be the conversation topic the next time I see you guys for some trouble again. Are we clear on that? Hi sensei. Alright. Now then, it's already late. Are you sure your parents will not be worried that you have not yet come home? Asked Naruto. No sensei. Said all three of them together. Alright then. You guys want some ramen? My treat? Asked Naruto. The three of them looked at each other and nodded their heads. Free food and not had to pay anything. Who would refuse? The four of them took to walking as the shop that Naruto had mentioned was not far. They had some small talk with each other before they finally ended up at the shop. They had a good time by Naruto's standards as all three of them enjoyed the meal. They talked for a while until all four of them decided to go home. Incidentally, Naruto took the same route as Issei. He was only a few blocks away from his house. While walking, Issei talked to Naruto and asked a question. Sensei? Called Issei. Yes, Issei, responded Naruto. Don't take any offense, but I never knew that you were so cool before. You were always kind of strict in class and never talked much. The only time you did were when you answered the questions of students. Naruto laughed and said, that is because one should always be professional at work. If one is not, then it would mean disrespect to it even if it is unintentional. My work timings were over by the time you three wound up getting caught. I am Naruto, the strict teacher, only from 9 AM to 4 PM. Outside I can be whatever I want. Teachers also have their own lives, you know. Issei turned silent at that and contemplated on what he said. The pair separated. Unknown to Issei, Naruto had been watching him move to his house. He then saw Ria's Gremory entering the same house with Issei's mother. Apparently Naruto had figured that they had gone shopping. Kurama, who had been silent the entire time, decided to finally talk. When are you going to finally talk to them? Asked Kurama. Oh? I thought you said that you weren't interested in this business, said Naruto. Well, one would get interested when you are staring at that damn house whenever you get free time. We have been in this part of town ever since you discovered them, said an annoyed Kurama. Well, I am nervous, Kurama. I don't know how to approach them, don't know how to approach her, said Naruto. HMPH. You are being, it's not that you cannot approach her. It's just that you don't want to approach that feisty little brat ever since you found she was living there. It's not this, I can't. I just do not want to alert the other devils, said Naruto. The conversation has to happen one day, Naruto. It cannot be in school because it will be a mess where we don't want others to see. I know. Whatever it is, Naruto. I hope you know what you are doing, said Kurama. Trust me, old friend. I am trying, said Naruto. Don't look at it anymore. Go to sleep. Alright. 7 days later. Naruto had been doing his work late at school today. His schedule has been busy the entire week that he didn't get time to his above-mentioned pastime. It was 8 o'clock and Naruto decided to get home as he had to catch the last bus, or he had to walk home, and waking for 50 minutes straight was sure as boring as hell. As he was about to move back home, he heard some noise in the school grounds. He decided to check it out to see if there are still some people within the school compounds. Damn that security guard. We are paying him to keep people out after school. What the hell is he doing? He immediately went out via the door and shouted. Alright, who in the world is making? Naruto started reducing his voice the moment he saw outside. There he saw a guy that looked like an elf with 10 black wings and 2 people dressed in priest robes. On the opposite side he saw exhausted and bleeding members of the occult research club, along with 2 other girls wearing skin-tight suits. All of them were either carrying swords or wearing fancy gauntlets or holding a small ball of red and black sparks, which seemed to give static effect. Naruto looked at them as they looked at him with bewildered eyes. He then said. He seemed to be interrupting something. You guys carry on with Yaram's stuff. As usual, you have a very horrible sense of timing. Said Kurama through their mental link. Shut it Fuzzbutt. You are not helping. What gave you the idea I would love to see where this ends. End. Chapter 2. Always love the way you get into trouble even if you don't want to. Said Kurama with heavy sarcasm in his voice. Oh gee you think? Said Naruto. Alright try to get out of here as soon as possible. Said Kurama. Oh I am sorry, if you weren't looking I was just dancing to Dan Balin's Numa Numa 2 song. No shit. What the hell do you think I am doing? Asked Naruto with more sarcasm. Naruto did not wait for Kurama to respond and looked over to the 2 factions who were at their throats. He internally sighed and decided to play the fool. I am sorry. Like I said before, you guys are busy doing something. Please go on, but I would love to see your permission slip for the live-action role-play game you are playing. Live-action started Issei in a shocked manner, but he was cut off before he could complete his sentence. Role-play? Said Riaz who ended the sentence that Issei formed. She was as equally shocked with the incident as Issei was. How in the world did an unaware human get in here? This is bad. Uzumaki-sensei is in danger. Thought Riaz. Naruto playing the fool said while cocking his head, is that not what you guys are doing? Do you honestly believe those cheap effects of swords and gauntlets that look way too shiny and decorative like something bought from a good shop used in a second-rate movie or something, along with that elf-eared guy with prop black wings are real? Please. Though I have to say that you guys did a pretty good job with the setup. He then turned towards the aforementioned elf ears and said, hey dude. How in the world are you up in the air? I don't see any cranes lifting you up. And where in the world did you get those hideous clothes? It looks like something from a creepy porn convention. To say Kakabiel was annoyed with the human was an understatement. He did not understand how a human, much less one unaware of the supernatural as evidenced by his surprise, was able to get inside the barrier. He looked at the human and said, I don't know how you got inside the barrier we set up human, or if we overlooked it when we set it up. However I have to tell you that now you know of us, you cannot survive. Die along with the rest of the devils. Kakabiel then threw a light sword at Naruto. Naruto made a very hasty move and dodged it like an amateur. He made wavy movements that made it look like it was fool's luck. Holy shit. Be careful where you throw those things sir. Someone might possibly get hurt. Said Naruto. Enough. Filthy heathen I shall end you. Said Fried and moved in to strike Naruto with his Excalibur. However his attempt was thwarted by Kiba who had unlocked the holy demonic sword. Kiba then said to a supposedly surprised Naruto, Uzumaki-sensei, get to cover. We will explain all the stuff you need to know at a later time. Please get back to safety. Naruto did not argue and used the chance to get back to Zenovia's side, who had been protecting Arena who had been knocked out. He did not question anything and acted as if trying to escape the area by moving cover to cover. Meanwhile Kakabiel who noticed Naruto trying to escape forced a chuckle. He thought, what a fool. This area is cut off from the outside world. None of them are going to get out of here alive, let's leave that fool aside. First we take care of the devils. Kakabiel then aimed his attacks at the devils and battled Issei and Riaz together. This battle moved on for a while with each of the group exchanging blows and spells. Naruto who went behind Zenovia took the chance to observe the ongoing battle. To say that he was impressed by the teens who could take on an opponent that was hardly their opponent and more like a nightmare was an understatement. However all of those efforts they gave went down the drain as they did not possess the raw power that Kakabiel possessed. They were able to take down both the ex-priests but not the cadre class fallen angel. Naruto was contemplating whether to help out the group or not. Though his thoughts were cut off when Issei asked Kakabiel something. Why do you want this man? Why do you seek to kill the president? Why help the crazy psycho with his experiments? What do you want? Kakabiel looked at Issei like he asked a stupid question and laughed, what do I want? Ha ha ha. That simple. War. I want war. I want to feel the thirst for blood once again. I want to feel the satisfaction of killing 1,000 enemies and send them to oblivion. That fool Azazel stopped the previous Great War as he and the others settled into a negotiation when we could have clearly won. Not anymore. I am going to restart the Great War once again and you shall be our tribute to the devils for doing so. Ambitious, but certainly plausible. Thought Naruto. Kurama nodded his head and said to Naruto, well if he kills 2 heirs of major devil houses the devils won't stay silent. This may definitely restart the Great War once again. No. You won't succeed. God won't let you do so," said Zenobia. "Yes. She's right. God will stop you even before the devils can," said Asia. She may be a devil now, but she was still a sister at heart. "Oh great. They had to pull the God card, didn't they?" said Naruto and waited for Kakabiel to make the big reveal. "Oh, that's right. You are not aware, are you?" said Kakabiel while laughing. "No what?" asked an annoyed Rias. "That god died in the previous Great War," said Kakabiel while laughing. "What?" said all of them in chorus. Kakabiel said while still laughing his guts out, "Oh, they didn't tell you, did they? The one who had been answering all your prayers was Michael. Only a few of the upper echelons know of this, and now so do you. God has been dead for more than 800 years now, ever since the First Great War." "No. No. That's not true. You are lying," said Asia while covering her ears and crouching down. Zenobia did the same as her. Both of the girls were women of faith, and to them this was the biggest blow they will ever receive. Expected, thought Naruto. He then watched the battle until the end when Rias and Issei combined their powers to create a big ball of destruction and hurled it at Kakabiel. Impressive. Though I doubt that would be enough to take down someone of Kakabiel's stature, thought Naruto. As predicted, Kakabiel was able to survive the attack but not unscathed. Kakabiel then looked at the pair of devils and said, "Oh, what fun. You guys have entertained me a lot, so let me repay the favor in kind. Starting with you, Red Dragon." He then moved forward to cut off Issei's head with a light spear he had summoned. Issei, who had been terribly exhausted after the attack, did not find any way to dodge the attack. He then closed his eyes and thought, "So this is the end for me, huh?" However, the more and more he waited, the more confused he felt because he could not feel any pain. No, he did not even feel any attack that fell on him. When he opened his eyes, all he could see in front of him was a head full of gray hair. However, that gray hair was slowly changing to white, and the thing was that it was growing out until it reached his back. Naruto, who had stopped Kakabiel's attack, had to remove the transformation he made with the help of magic. The onlookers were stunned to find a young Uzumaki in his 20s with a youthful smile. However, what stunned them the most was not the transformation, but rather his action. Naruto had calmly stopped Kakabiel's light spear with one finger. He yawned and said, "You know, you always talk and talk, but you were never one for action, weren't you, elf ears?" "Why you?" said a stunned Kakabiel. "In a while. How's it going?" asked Naruto. But you are supposed to be dead," said Kakabiel. Naruto reached his hand for something. His hand then moved into nothing and disappeared. However, those who knew what he did were surprised. She thought, "That's a pocket dimension. How does he have one? Who the hell is he?" thought Issei. Naruto calmly took out a sheathed sword. It was shaped like a katana. The grip was painted in white and red. He unsheathed the sword. A bright light was immediately emitted by the ordinary-looking steel sword. All of them were able to figure out the nature of the sword almost instantaneously. The holy sword. What holy energy? Which holy sword is that? How the hell does he have it? Who the hell is he? Thought Kiba. This energy, it feels pure and righteous, and at the same time wrathful. It feels more dangerous than Durandal. What is that sword? Thought Zenobia. Is he with the church? Thought Rias, coming to an obvious conclusion. Look, Kakabiel, I would have loved to stay uninvolved with this war business of yours. However, you forced my hand the moment you decided to kill my student who was not fit for battle. Kakabiel shouted out in fear, "No, stay back." He summoned a few light spears and threw them at Naruto, but Naruto cut all of those spears that were hurled at him with ease and slowly walked forward until he pushed Kakabiel into a corner. "And no, I can't die yet. I can't. I still need to," said Kakabiel, but couldn't complete his words as his head was cut off by Naruto, who sliced his head clean off. "Die with some dignity, fool," said Naruto, and sheathing his sword once again. He did not do anything but knelt on the floor and prayed to pay respects to his enemy. Once he did that, he seemingly looked somewhere and said, "Come out, White Dragon. I know that you have been watching for a while." "Who are you talking to?" asked Issei, but stopped when he noticed a visage coming into existence. A knight in white armor. "So the White One is here, is he?" asked Dreg. "Wait, you know that guy, Dreg?" "Of course. He and I are eternal rivals. It is our destiny that our holders must battle each other to the death." "Wait, you mean?" "He means that you are to either die or to eventually kill this guy, Issei, as it has been, like always," said Naruto. He then looked at, "Though it has been a while since I met the either of you troublesome dragons. How have you been, Dreg, Albion?" The White Knight responded, or at least the blue jewel in his suit did, "It sure has been a while. Though I suppose a person who is presumed to be dead for a long time coming back to life is a little surprising." "Same here," said Dreg. "Well, that's your fault for assuming things. However, I would like to keep it that way. Hey you. White Dragon Emperor. Azazel had sent you to collect this guy's head, didn't he?" asked Naruto. "Yes. He did. I was promised a fight, but now it seems that there won't be one. At least not with Kakabiel, said the White Knight. He prepared to attack Naruto, however Albion stopped him. Hold it, Volley. I would advise you against fighting against that particular individual. At least not for now, warned Albion. You think I would lose? Asked Volley. I know you would. Trust me on this one. We can fight with him when you are stronger. Besides, we shouldn't keep the fallen general waiting, said Albion. Volley looked at Naruto, who looked like he did not give a damn. He then turned towards Issei and the rest and introduced himself as the White Dragon Emperor while challenging Issei to get stronger so that he could have a worthy opponent to kill. He then left the area, leaving Naruto and the others behind. Naruto, who had been watching on the entire ordeal, decided he had to leave. However, the moment he turned to leave, Riaz asked. Hold a moment. Naruto turned back and looked. I want to thank you for coming to our aid and saving Issei's life, even if you were not required to. No, it would be best to say that you saved all of us by killing Kakabiel. Please know that you have the friendship of the Gremory family of devils and that we owe you a favor in return for this kindness. I know that this may sound ungrateful, but I need to know this as the one of the devils who governs this area. Who are you? Why are you here? Asked Riaz in a very polite tone while bowing her head. Naruto, who found this amusing, said to her in a friendly manner, I am nobody, Gremory-san. Just a human living his life while avoiding the supernatural. I hope that today's incident stay as a passing incident. Riaz shook her head and asked like a stubborn bull that won't give up, that doesn't answer my question, Uzumaki-sensei. I need a definite answer. Like I told you, I govern. Riaz was unable to complete her sentence as she felt a pressure akin to when she was in front of her brother, who was serious. No. This pressure is even more, thought Riaz. She along with the rest of the group knelt on the floor. Naruto narrowed his eyes and said, well, it is not my intentions to speak to your group like this. Well, you have just finished fighting for your lives, Gremory-san. I might need to make some points clear. I do not need to answer anything to you as you are not my superior in any way or form. You are my student and I am your teacher at school. That's what exists between us in regards to relationship, and I hope that's all that will ever exist. Second, I have been in this city long before your kind decided to claim it yours. I know of your jurisdictions and your rules, so don't try to act like you own the place. Your governance of the area stops with the stray devils or any other individual that are part of supernatural factions that may exist here. I am neither of those, so do us both a favor and stop asking answers for questions you don't need to know. He then released the pressure he was exerting via his killing intent and said, I hope you take my suggestion to heart. Like I said before, I mean you no harm, so do not test my strength. Know that you are in safe company. He turned to leave the area as the barrier was down, and as he moved away from them he said with his back turned, I hope you do me another favor and not inform your brother on what happened here, at least with regards to my being. I don't want to make myself known to the supernatural once more, as I wish to lead a slow and peaceful life. At least for one more week. Consider that favor in exchange for saving yours and your peerage's lives. When he was moving he sheathed his sword and showed the butt end of it accidentally to the group. Riaz, who had enhanced eyes due to nighttime, was able to spot a red cross on the butt end of the sword. The cross? So he is with the church. Or once was. Thought Riaz, and she added further, however now is not the time to think about this. We need to get medical help. Alright, let's regroup outside the area, gang. The exorcists restrained Fried and Valper. Let's move out. Said Riaz and left the area while the exorcists did their thing. Once they all left, a man came out from the shadows. He had brown hair that ended in blonde bangs and a short beard. He thought, so he was here all along, huh? Right under our noses. But Naruto. So you finally decided to reveal yourself in front of them? Said Kurama. Yes, said Naruto with no emotions attached. He was heavily contemplating something. So what now? Asked Kurama. I am going to approach them the day after tomorrow. Now that the supernatural had caught a whiff of my existence, they would try to find me once again. It will involve a lot of questions. Replied Naruto. So you are going to hide once again? Said Kurama. After this week? Yes. Replied Naruto. Fine. I am always with you, Naruto, even if I don't like the way you are running away from things right now. Said Kurama. I know, old friend, I know. Naruto then went to sleep on his bed thinking about his confrontation. The next day. The day had been the usual for Naruto. He went to school normally as if yesterday's incident never happened. He took his classes normally without any form of interference. The Gremory group had been avoiding him as expected, but from the way things were going, Naruto was sure that Riaz had kept her word and maintained his existence a secret. Well, it bought me some time to leave gracefully. Thought Naruto and appreciated Riaz's decision. It did favor him after all. He then went home silently by catching the bus as usual. He opened the door and changed back to his clothes. His old appearance regained, he took to watching TV for the news. Just then he heard a knock on the door. Naruto went to open the door and outside he found a familiar face. He was not surprised in the sense that the person found him, but that it was too soon. "Hello, Archombid," said the melodious voice of a blonde-haired woman who was waiting outside. "Well, this is slightly unexpected. Well then, are you going to come inside?" "Gabriel," said Naruto addressing the angel in question. And that's all, folks. This is a very short chapter, so I doubt we will be continuing this one. Oh, what the hell. Let's just continue on, shall we? Gabriel did not say anything and went inside. She then sat on the couch. Naruto went inside to prepare some tea for them. Once he came back with the tea, he found Gabriel to be fiddling with the TV remote trying to figure it out. Naruto smiled and said, "Well, they don't have a television in heaven, do they?" Gabriel shook her head and gave her standard angelic smile. "No, they don't. The humans are always so amazing. They find and invent these neat and tacky things almost every year these days. Heaven is trying to incorporate their technology into the systems, but there has not been much progress in that area." Both of them sat down in the living room to have some tea. They sipped their tea together and sighed at the same time. They looked at each other and laughed at the way they did that almost simultaneously. Once the laughs were over, Naruto asked in a slightly serious tone. "Not that I appreciate you visiting, Gabriel, but how did you find me so quickly? When did Heaven's information network improve that much?" asked Naruto with a curious look. "Heaven still doesn't know of your existence here. I am the only one who knows. I was able to find out you were living here after one of the exorcists charged here told me of the will of fire that she saw. The others in the church did not recognize it as it was not recorded as a holy sword in any existing texts, but I was able to as I was the one who blessed it, remember?" said Gabriel. "Oh, I see," said Naruto. "It was a mistake to use the sword, it seems. Stupid. I have to agree that was stupid of me." Naruto sighed and said, "Well, that brings me to ask a second question, why are you here?" Gabriel cocked her head and said, "Is it not normal to visit one's friends whom you haven't visited in a long time?" Naruto smiled at her innocence and said, "Yes, it is normal and I appreciate it. However, the normal you would have jumped the gun and hugged me like you usually do whenever you find me. So that makes me think that you are not just here for a social call." Gabriel, who heard this, sighed and smiled. She then picked out something from her white robes and said, "Nothing escapes your senses, do they, Archimbo? Call me Naruto. That's what I go by now. Well, that has always been my name." Gabriel smiled and said, "Alright, Naruto. So what is in this?" asked Naruto looking at a folded parchment. "Why don't you open it?" said Gabriel. Naruto did that and unfolded the parchment. He looked at it and immediately narrowed his eyes. He turned serious than he had ever before and asked, "Gabriel, I will tell you this, if you are joking about this matter, then I will end our friendship right here right now." Gabriel still smiled and said in a much serious tone, "I am not joking, Naruto. I have been working on the solution for centuries now. I was able to access my father's records and finally devise it. I am 100% sure it will work." Naruto started breathing heavily. He was looking for a way for too long and finally it came to his hands. He then looked at Gabriel and asked, "What must I do?" Gabriel said, "You must collect all 5 pieces first before we move on to the next step. Unknown to most, that sacred gear had always been the most powerful, not the true Longinus. We need to get all the pieces back if we are to make it whole again." Naruto did not say anything and moved towards the bookshelf. There he removed one book and opened it. The page it contained had a spiderweb of seals. Naruto immediately performed a bunch of hand seals and unsealed it. A small object poofed into existence with smoke. "Is that?" asked Gabriel with surprise. "Yes. This is one of the 5 pieces of Sephiroth Graal. The Holy Grail," said Naruto and brought the object to light. It was an earthen cup. Gabriel's eyes widened as she never knew that Naruto held a piece in his hand. She then said, "So that leaves us with 4 more pieces." "Yes," said Naruto. "I will help you, Naruto. I will help you in finding the pieces and help achieve your goals. However, I can do it only on one condition," said Gabriel. "What is it?" asked Naruto. "I want you, Naruto Uzumaki, no Archimbo de Saint-Amand, to help achieve peace between the 3 factions," said Gabriel. The next day. Naruto, who had come over to Issei's house, thought, well then here goes nothing. He had come here under the excuse that it was a parent-teacher meet and he was making a home visit. He knocked on the door to find that Issei had opened it for him. Naruto smiled and looked at Issei. He then said, "Well, Issei, I am here for the parent-teacher meet. I hope your parents are present." Issei responded, "Why yes, come in, sensei." He then called both his parents announcing his teacher was there. "Thank you." Issei motioned him to take a seat at the couch. Naruto took the time to examine the living room. It was expected of an ordinary family. The house was neatly maintained and there were pictures of Issei's parents and himself in various ages. Naruto smiled at the homeliness. He picked this time to come when he knew that both Riaz and Asia were away from home. Right on time, the pair of husband and wife entered the living room while one was carrying sweets and tea on a plate. "Ah. Hello, sensei. We were expecting you for a while now. We would love to," said Issei's father, but stopped his sentence midway. Issei had been upstairs as asked by his parents. However, he came running down when he heard a loud shriek and crashing of plates downstairs. He shouted, "Mom? Dad? Is everything alright?" However, the sight that greeted him was not one he expected. He saw his father standing beside his mother, who was crying while kneeling on the floor. She was holding her hand to her mouth while doing so, but her sights never left Naruto. Issei, who saw this, took it the wrong way and immediately fired at Naruto. "You? What did you do them?" Naruto stayed calm and showed a kind face. He then said, "Let the adults discuss this with ourselves, Issei. Though I have to say, it has been a while, hasn't it, Mickey? My daughter. My daughter who eloped with the guy beside her without leaving anything but a letter." Now it was Issei's turn to be shocked. He shouted out his thoughts, "What the fuck?" End. Chapter 3. Sometime in the past. Naruto woke up to the sounds of bells ringing. He did not know where he was but did know that wherever he was being taken care of if he could see the soft but humble bed he was laid on. Naruto quickly got up but immediately felt an immense pain when he did. He looked down to notice that someone had bandaged his chest and stomach area, and looking at a mirror he found out that his head was too. However, that was not the most unusual thing for him. He looked at the reflection of himself in the mirror and was shocked. "I am young again. What is the meaning of this? Why do I look like my 16-year-old self? Did the jutsu fail?" thought Naruto gravely. He had so many questions that needed answering, but sadly it seems that none shall be answered today. He then mustered his strength to get up from the bed and stumbled when he did. He quickly got support from a nearby wall and moved. Within his mind, he shouted, "Kurama. Are you there? Please answer, old friend." However, his call was only responded with silence. He shouted again and again to find out it was only more silence. He finally decided to check out the cage where Kurama was once sealed within his mind. To his relief, he found the great nine-tailed beast, but it was in slumber. No matter how hard he shouted, how much physical or verbal abuse he gave to the fox, it wouldn't wake up. "Seems I am on my own for now," thought Naruto and moved along the plastered walls. The architecture of the place was simple and quaint, but the place contained a peaceful aura to it. Naruto came outside of the room he was in, to a large hall filled with wooden long chairs and a small shrine with a cross on top. The entire area had been filled with paintings and murals of men and other creatures which Naruto did not bother to look. Instead, his attention was focused on a man on the altar praying to the cross while kneeling. Naruto noticed that the man was praying to some deity and waited. "Infidior unum baptisma in remissionem peccatorem. Et expecto resurrectionem mortuorum, et vitam venturi seculi. Amen," said the man and finished his prayer. He then got up and looked at Naruto. The man's features were now more visible. He was an old man with white hair, and his face was filled with wrinkles that showed that the person withstood the sands of time, but not for long. However, unlike his face, the man himself was energetic and his demeanor was relaxing. He had drooping eyes like the ones who had been enlightened, and his presence filled the place with light. He walked up to Naruto and spoke to him. The man muttered something, however Naruto could not understand what he was saying. What did you say?" asked a confused Naruto. The man who saw this frowned but still spoke once again. Naruto once again shook his head to state that he did not understand the person. The man frowned, but this time he took to sign language. He said some words pointing at himself, but Naruto was only able to catch, "Ego, Giovanni." Naruto did the same and said, "I, Naruto, you, Giovanni." The man nodded and smiled that he was finally getting somewhere with the young man. He then used sign language, which Naruto thinks he asked where he was from. Naruto responded with elemental nations. The man who heard it was puzzled as it was not a place he knew of. However, his thoughts were interrupted by a Naruto who took to asking the man with sign language performing the same symbols. He wanted to know the name of the place where he was. The man smiled and nodded. He then said one word which Naruto had a hard time to get the pronunciation, but he finally managed to get it after number of failures. Jerusalem. Back to the present. Issei was in a bind. He certainly did not expect this kind of development when Naruto decided to show up. For once he was happy that both Riaz and Asia were away, as he did not want them to see his family under these circumstances. He then looked at Naruto, who sighed and said, "Issei, I would be willing to spend some time with you and tell everything you need to know, but for now the adults in this room need to talk. So could you wait in your room? Your mother will fetch you once everything is over," said Naruto. But said Issei, but was interrupted by Naruto. "Please Issei, it's complicated," said Naruto with a look in his eyes. Issei could not refuse that look. That look of someone who was hurt and wanting of companionship. Issei turned serious and nodded. He then silently went back to his room and waited. Naruto, who looked at Miki crying on the floor while kneeling with her head down on the floor where the plates had broken. Her husband did the same, joining her. Naruto asked her, "Get up." Miki refused to budge. She instead said, "No. I can't. I don't deserve to. Not after what I did to you." Naruto sighed and knelt on one foot beside her. He put a hand on her shoulder and said, "Let me be the one to decide that. Get up, both of you. I want to see the face of my daughter I haven't seen for more than 18 years. Miki, who heard that, slowly got up and showed her face, but she refused to stand. Naruto held her face in his hand and caressed her lightly. Naruto smiled at her on the outside, but inside he was ready to tear up. The face he saw was not the same one he saw in his memories. Her face had withstood the tests of time and now had a few wrinkles on it. Naruto looked at her and remembered all the times she used to smile in her childhood. The time when they went for the festivals. The time when they pulled pranks on her mother and his wife. The times when the tomboyish young girl gave the same fox-like grin he did. Now what he saw was the cruel punishment that time had meted onto his only daughter who was still alive. Time is really too cruel, thought Naruto. He could not hold up and started crying. Crying because he missed nearly 2 decades of his daughter's life. He hugged her while crying and said, "I missed you. I missed you very much." Miki was stunned by the reactions of Naruto. She did not expect her father to come say that he missed her. She imagined 100 scenarios in her mind, but none like this. Soon even she could not stop crying. She started bawling and said, "I missed you too, Dad." Naruto, who heard this, smiled and cried even more. He cried more not because he missed his daughter, no, but due to the joy of hearing the word dad from his daughter's mouth again. He smiled due to the fact that this was proof that his daughter accepted him into her life once again, like he accepted her into his part of life. Both father and daughter cried while the onlooker of the two smiled at the reunion of the family. He remembered the times his wife had searched for her father. The times when she cried into her bed when she realized what she threw away. This had amplified when Issei was born. However, all forms of search was fruitless as Naruto had moved away from Tokyo. But none of that mattered now. All that mattered now was that they were blessed enough to see their family whole again. Some time later. Issei had been pretty bummed out the entire time. He did not know what was going on and only hoped that everything was for the best. He was silently contemplating on the things that Rias had said. Flashback. Issei. I want you to avoid Uzumaki-sensei at all costs. I know that he made his intentions clear when he said that he meant no harm, but be careful, alright? Hi, President. Alright then. Let's go to sleep, shall we, my sexy little junior? Said Rias while taking off her clothes. Wait now? Asked Issei with more enthusiasm than usual. A naked Rias was always a welcome sight to him. Yes now. Or do you want to do something I don't know, said Rias and moved towards a blushing Issei, who had all kinds of perverted scenarios running through his mind. She leaned closer to his ear while hugging him lightly and said, "We could do something fun." Fun? I could totally go for some fun. Said Issei, ready to pounce on Rias. Rias smiled but did not refuse Issei's advances. She then said, "Face it, tiger. You are about to get laid." "Oh yeah, baby. I am going to score tonight," thought Issei, but his phone went off at the right moment. He looked at it annoyed and thought, "Who the hell is calling me now?" It read Mitsuda. Issei had ignored the call as he was just about to get what he was waiting for ever since he found out what sex was. However, that decision turned out to be a horrible mistake. One that is added onto the list of lifelong regrets for Issei. The call then turned into a voice message. Mitsuda just had to ruin the moment by saying his piece. "Hey Issei. Where are you, dude? You promised me and Motohama that we were watching a porn marathon." Issei said, "Sorry President, just ignore it." Rias was a bit put off but still smiled. "It's alright Issei, I know what kind of friends you have." And gestured him to continue. However, Mitsuda once again spoke, "Yo, when you come here man, bring that doll of yours over here. It has a great suction strength. Hell, we can all do it at once. So get your ass over here ASAP." Well, that line certainly killed the mood if one goes by Ria's expression. She pushed Issei away and started to get dressed again. "Maybe we could." "No. If you want it so much then go to that sausage hut that is so eager for your arrival," said Rias and walked away. Breeze flew from the window when Rias left. Issei was left hanging. He was contemplating on how he should kill Mitsuda without anyone noticing him. "Alright then, let's just send that idiot to Milton later on. That guy wanted action, right? Then he would get all the action he desires," thought Issei. He then noticed the call and thought, but first. Porno, here I come. Back to present. Safe to say, Issei did feel a little disgusted when he came back afterward. He decided to burn that doll of his which all caused all problems, and burn he did with sorrow of course. However, he was broken out from his thoughts when he heard a knock on the door. He found his mother opening the door with more energy than Issei ever saw she had. Issei saw his mother smiling away like a crazy person. However, he knew that, for the smile to appear, things should have gone pretty smooth. Come down, Issei. Dad has something to discuss and he asked that all of us be present. Issei nodded and came down. He had a look at the room and found his sensei, apparently grandfather, to be seated on the couch and talking with his father. His dad seemed nervous talking with Naruto but still smiled warmly. Once everyone was in the room, Naruto decided to talk. So Issei, I suppose you have some questions, right? Ask them away. Said Naruto. Issei turned serious and asked, tell me everything from the beginning. I want to know why my mother eloped. I want to know what happened to you. I also want to know how you found us. Naruto nodded, finding them to be reasonable questions, and said, very well. I will answer your questions. He then started his tale. I was living in Tokyo when I met your grandmother 47 years ago. Back then I was working as a newly instated teacher at a high school. Your grandmother was the same. We met at work and later on we developed feelings for each other which resulted in our eventual marriage. He then said, she was an orphan just like me and nobody to call family, so we had a simple wedding, only calling friends that we truly considered friends. 5 years later Mickey was born. We were truly a happy family. We lived in peace for 10 years in Tokyo until one day your grandmother passed away. She died in a car crash while I was away. I could not do anything as the accident itself was fatal. Mickey and Naruto turned sad at this and had a downcast expression. However, Naruto steeled his heart and continued, however we continued on. We could not stay sad because we knew that that wasn't what your grandmother would have wanted. I fulfilled my role as a father as best as I could to Mickey. She completed high school and went on to college at Tokyo University. Mickey then continued, I met your father there. We were in the same class and he confessed to me. I could not refuse, so we dated for a while before we decided to make it official after both of us completed college. I did not say this to Dad as I did not have the courage to back then. Dad had already engaged me to the son of a family friend. Naruto sighed and said, the groom-to-be was a good lad. I knew him ever since he was a child and I thought he would be a good match for Mickey. I did not know that she was seeing someone else at the time and your grandmother's last wish was for Mickey to have a good husband. She asked me to help Mickey choose. I gave her my word and I hurriedly decided to engage her to the boy in my want to fulfill your grandmother's last wish. Mickey nodded and said, it was then I decided to elope. It was a stupid mistake, I know. However, I did not have the courage to face my father and say that I did not want that marriage. I did not want to disappoint him. Thus in my fear I ran away along with your father as soon as he got a job here in Kuo. Issei, who heard the entire tale, summed it up and said, so basically both of you made stupid decisions that resulted in your separation for about 2 decades. Naruto and Mickey looked at him in an awkward manner when Issei termed it in a blunt manner. Naruto nodded and said, yeah. That's basically it. Issei then asked, so what happened afterwards? Naruto said, well, I was angry for a period of time knowing your mother did what she did, but that anger turned to longing after a few years passed. I tried finding her, but by then all trails had gone cold. None of your father's or your mother's graduating classmates knew where they were. In the time I searched for her, I thought long and hard on my actions. I realized the mistake I made and could have very well avoided it if I did not rush through jeopardizing my daughter's life. Doubt slowly crept into me. I thought, what if she doesn't want to see me? And what if she hates me now? With that thought in mind I gave up on searching for her. I left Tokyo as it had too many memories of her and your grandmother, and I went to various other places before I settled down here in Kuo. It was by coincidence that I found you were living here. I always knew that you were a pervert while you were in your first year, but never knew that you were my grandson. It was when I went through the registry that I found your parents' name to be Mickey and Goru. I looked this into detail before I finally found you. Issei was the one confused now. Wait. Why did you go through my information and when did you pull that off? Naruto turned serious at that and said, well then, before that I suppose you need to tell your parents about your nightly activities. Issei had been put off by the way that Naruto had announced his secret. He did not want his parents to find out about his other life in the supernatural world. So he tried to make up something. Yeah, thought he had been going out with the occult research club to Toto find some rare occult artifacts. Yeah, and also solve mysteries regarding with monsters in town. Mickey made a deadpan face at that and said, Issei. Goru and I already knew that you were a devil. Issei, who heard that, was stunned. Wait, what? So you knew all along? Mickey snorted and said, of course we knew. You think that being raised by my father would make me unaware of the supernatural? No, we knew all along. Suzoto, you hate me for being a devil. Said Issei while being more nervous than usual. Mickey, who heard that, smiled, of course not, dear. I don't care what you become. You are our baby boy, that's all that matters to us. Issei, who heard that, gave out a sigh of relief. He then said, thanks mom. Mickey responded, it's alright sweetie. The entire room plunged into peaceful silence until Issei decided to break it. Wait. If you knew about the supernatural, then why didn't you tell me? Why did you act as if you were unaware all along? Mickey turned silent at that. She then responded, your father and I both know of the supernatural. I came to know it through my father and your father came to know of it through me. Obviously your father did not believe me at first, but later I was able to show him that the fantasies that people thought as imaginations were real. Naruto continued, Issei, you see. I did not want your mother to get involved with the supernatural. When she was still a fetus, I already performed a special technique that locked away the genes that gave her my powers. Your mother grew up as an ordinary human just like your grandmother. However, being near me meant that eventually she must come to know of the truth. She did and I told her of the supernatural. I then taught her some basics so she could defend herself. However, without magic or any other form of energy, she would still be weak against a stray devil. So I unlocked a part of her powers, allowing her to sense whenever a stray devil or those with bad intentions are nearby so that she could avoid them. Mickey nodded and said, that sums it up. I am able to sense any supernatural being within a quarter-mile radius and avoid the area. We came to Kuo as back when we moved here there was still a functioning church that took care of the devils for us. That is also how we came to know the Shidas. Their line has been one of exorcists for a long time and we moved right next to them to get protection. Your mother was rather persistent back then to buy this house. I saved up some money and I was finally able to. However, that turned out to be useless as the Shidas moved away to Italy 3 years afterward. Said Goru. Issei, who heard of that, found that it made a lot of sense. There were a lot of times his parents were easily coerced into accepting the situation. Even Rias had found it weird as even the application of magic will not be this effective. However, they figured that Issei's parents were just like that. The ones who go with the flow. Seems now that was not the case. So what now? Asked Issei, who had no longer any questions that required asking. He turned towards Naruto, who replied. Don't ask me. I did not expect things to happen this way. Said Naruto as he raised his hands in surrender. Wait, you did not answer my question. How long have you known that I was your grandson? Asked Issei. Naruto then replied, well, it was obvious of me to check out any new members who joined the Gremarier Citri family as I am teaching at an institute run by them. I did not know that you were my grandson at first, only later on. I did not come to save you when you were killed by the fallen angel, as to me you were just another victim, another number that was unfortunate enough to die by the hands of one of the supernatural beings like all the victims of the stray devils you saw. I did not see enough reason for me to save you. Then you got reincarnated as a devil by Ria's Gremary, which took me by surprise. However, I think it was for the best that you decided to join the devils, or rather forced to join. Issei now looked confused. Naruto sighed and explained, Issei, the boosted gear is a rather strong sacred gear and has the potential to kill God, as you are already aware. Even if you were trained from young to wield its powers, there are those beings who are stronger than you are. Immensely so. Kakabiel was just trash at the bottom of the ladder. Those kinds of beings would always like to prove their strengths and would target you for proving it. Glory, honor, revenge, whatever their goal might be. You are not safe alone, and it is easier and wise for a person to join a faction rather than running solo. The Gremary group is something I can tolerate as they are not power hungry, nor do they treat their servants with disrespect. Issei, who heard these words from Naruto, turned silent. He knew what Naruto was talking about and was thinking on how to tackle those obstacles in the way. However, he was cut off from his thoughts when Naruto spoke. Alright, enough of that for now. Come. Sit. I want to get to know my grandson better in person. I hope that you are not always the pervert you are at school. Mickey snorted and said, oh, you tell me, old man. It is because of you and my idiot husband that my son is like this. And how long are you planning on sitting in that ridiculous transformation, Dad? Naruto wryly smiled at his daughter. He then changed back to his original 20-year-old self, causing Mickey to frown. He noticed his daughter's frown and asked. What is it, dear? It is rather weird for me to look at you and call you Dad when you look half my age. Naruto laughed at that and so did everyone else in the room. Issei then said, you know, it is rather odd for me too to call you grandfather all of a sudden, even if you are my grandfather. Naruto understood where Issei was going and smiled. It is alright, Issei, call me Gramps or Grandpa whenever you are at home, or you can continue to call me Sensei like you do at the academy. I don't mind the formalities. They talked for a while until Naruto decided to announce something. Well then. I suppose it's time I told you guys of some rather important things. It's important you hear them. The occupants in the room decided to do just that. Sometime later. Naruto hailed a taxi and was moving towards a destination. He was silently thinking about something when a voice decided to make itself known. So you finally revealed yourself to them. How do you feel? Asked Kurama. Never better. It's like a weight whose existence I never knew had been taken off from my shoulders," said Naruto. "So this is it, huh? You sure you want to do this?" asked Kurama. "I was never sure. However, time and tide never waits for anyone. It is imperative I do this. For her," said Naruto. "Know that I will always have your back, brat," said Kurama, trying to reassure his old friend. "I know, Kurama, that is why I am confident in doing this," said Naruto. He then looked outside and found out that he had arrived at the destination. It was the airport in Kuo. He paid the cab driver for the ride and went inside. The words on the outside read, "International." Naruto went to one of the counters and stood in line patiently. Once his turn came up, he went in front and stood in front of the glass, separating himself and the receptionist. The receptionist said, "Hello. How may I help you?" "Ah yes, hello, I would like to book a first-class flight ticket please," said Naruto. "Oh. That would depend on the vacancy of the flight, sir. Can you please tell me the destination so that I could check that out for you?" asked the receptionist. Naruto replied, "Rome." End. Chapter 4. Jerusalem, 1117 AD. Most of the conversation in this chapter happens in Hebrew and Italian. However, for convenience sake, the entire thing is written in English. Some of the words are in Italian. It was a dark night in Jerusalem. The moon and the stars were prevented from shining their brilliance by the dark clouds that the sky. The outskirts of the city were empty as the people had retired to their homes once darkness came. The entire city, which was bustling with life, was now silent, with a few lights here and there flickering in the wind. However, one lady was running down the outskirts with full speed. She was panting and sweating and screaming in fear. Behind her was a male being chasing her. The being was a fat man who had wings on his back. He shouted towards the lady. "Come on, dear. It would be fun. I promise you would enjoy it once you get a little taste. Why are you running away? Come here, little kitten," said the man in a haunting voice, chasing the maiden. The maiden shouted back at the being, "Stay away from me. Please leave me alone. Leave me alone, demon." The being, instead of getting angry at the maiden, instead had a full-blown smile. He said, "If that's the kind of play you want, then that's what you will get. Run along, dear. Run anywhere. Once you stop running, we will have that time I promised you, and I will make sure that you beg for it while you writhe under me." The maiden shouted and screamed for help, but she met a dead end as the gates to the city were closed. The guards who were there protecting the gates were slumbering away, dreaming of women and wine, no doubt from the expression on their faces. She did not know what to do. She ran away from there and tried to find another entrance to the city, but her legs could not help her anymore. She stumbled on the road and fell on the road. She looked to find a pair of expensive boots in front of her. She then noticed that the boots were that of the devil that chased her. She froze, unable to think what to do. "So you have finally decided to stop running away, have you? Excellent, now why don't you come here and indulge yourselves with my tool? We can even start right now. Makes it more exciting, doesn't it?" asked the devil with a filthy smile on the face. He caressed her face and stretched out his tongue to lick her face. The maiden in question prayed. She prayed to God so that he may help her in her time of need. "God, please save me from this devil. Please, I beg of you," prayed the girl. The devil noticed the girl praying and said, well, now you depend on him, do you? No, that's a bad girl. It seems that you need to be properly punished." He went to slap the girl, but his hand was stopped from doing so. The devil looked angry at the hand that dare offend his and immediately looked to the person it belonged to. He found a man holding his hand and gripping it hard. "Let go, human. Do you know who I am? Let go this instant," said the devil, trying to let go of the grip. "Have you no manners, devil, trying to harm an innocent young lady? What am I even saying? Of course you don't. Well then, I guess you better be on your merry way," said the young man. "What are you saying? Let go of me this instant or suffer," said the devil, but his head was sliced clean off even before he completed his words. Banditi were the last thoughts of the devil, as he had not seen the sword even being drawn. Naruto wiped the blood off of his face and looked at the maiden. She was terrified and shocked at the same time. Must be still under shock, thought Naruto. He then bent down on the floor and hugged the maiden. "Everything is alright now. You are safe." The maiden in question reciprocated the hug and then came out of his grip and said, "Thank you, kind sir, for helping me when no one else did." Naruto looked at her and said, "It's nothing, now why don't we get you back home? I guess you need some well-deserved rest after all that hustle and bustle." The maiden nodded and complied with Naruto's wishes. It has been 7 years since Naruto came to this world. The old priest who took him in had taken to teaching him the cultures and religions that existed in this world. It took some time, but Naruto finally learned the language, at least on the communication basis, after a lot of hard work. The priest had taught him Hebrew and Italian whenever he had the free time. Naruto came to know the man known as Giovanni de Saint Amand. Apparently he moved to Jerusalem in search of God when he was young from a place called Rome. The priest found Naruto during one of his evening walks. He brought Naruto back to the church and bandaged him up after checking up on him through a Hakim. The priest looked after Naruto for a while, and once he woke up, he decided to raise Naruto as one of his own and teach him the languages of this world. In the time they spent together, the priest renamed Naruto as Archambault for convenience sake. In the time Naruto spent here, he discovered a couple of things about himself. He no longer had chakra. No, it's not that he no longer had it, he just did not have the usual amount he had before. He could use it, but not even to create one shadow clone. It had been rough for him to heal too, as it had seemed that he had lost his healing factor too. He was now more ordinary and human than he ever has been. However, that did not stop him. In the time he spent here, he learned a lot of things. He started training after a year he came to this world. This time he used to practice with some light armor, but not heavy enough to impede his movements. He took to learning on how to use the shield to defend himself, along with learning on how to ride horses. He was quite a natural when it came to being an expert equestrian. He then saw the weapons of this world, and none had been able to replicate the weapons he had in his old world. So for 5 years he had taken to learning how to forge things from the blacksmiths, aside from learning language and training. On his 6th year here, he finally mastered the art of forging to some degree due to all the practicing. He learned on how to control his strength and use his chakra efficiently like Tsunade did so that he can replicate her super strength. It had taken a lot of practice, some broken bones and torn muscles, but he finally got it after immense practice. He used the technique to forge things and thus finally created his weapon. He made a katana and some kunai knives after a couple of failures. The katana was one of his best pieces of steel, well, chakra metal to be exact, as he had a couple of kunai that were with him in scrolls during the battle he fought before he came to the world. He named it the Will of Fire in memory of his home village, and that to remind himself that no matter what his will to carry on the hope his friends and family had shall never fade. Then he made himself a medium-sized shield which had a 30 centimeters radius. It was a kite shield made by an alloy of steel and chakra metal, along with another rare metal he found by the Jordan during one of his rounds there. He saw that the metal looked like black sand, and once he was able to smelt it down into an ingot, it was rather heavy, but it was highly resistant to both heat and blows. This resulted in the slightly more than heavy shield which had a silver color with reddish outlines when it reflected light once he polished it down. However, Naruto was able to lift and use it using his application of chakra. Right now, he was wearing a piece of black linen cloth under which he had a steel mesh. He wore normal pajama pants as they do in the olden days with a cord to fasten it. He was wearing normal boots tied with laces. Once he dropped off the maiden who thanked him, he went towards the church where he lived now. He did not have any faith in God or particular liking towards the Christian religion, but he did help around the church to repay the help that the priest had offered him. He went inside the church and called out. "Padre Father, are you here? Padre Father? I am back," shouted out Naruto. "Ah. Archambault, where have you been? I was worried since I could not find you in your quarters. And how many times do I have to tell you, no shouting inside the church? Be respectful and silent," said a voice. The voice was identified to be the old priest that had found Naruto, however he looked a lot older and his voice sounded cracked due to old age. Though that childlike energy can still be found in his eyes. He coughed immediately after he said his piece. Naruto ran to get some water for the priest and took some water from a pot that was nearby using a cup. He held the priest's hand and led him towards the bed. He said, "Be careful, Padre. You are not as young as you once were. Here, have some water." Giovanni took Naruto's advice and drank the water slowly. Once he had finished, he asked, "So where were you, my son?" Naruto said, solemnly, "Hunting down one of the devils that was terrorizing the outskirts. A girl almost became a victim today." The priest nodded and asked with a smile, "So he led you to this girl and be her savior, is it?" Naruto returned that smile with a smile of his own, but said, "Padre, as much as I love and respect you, I do not agree with some of the things you say. I am not a man of faith, so God did not help me in saving this girl. It was my own skills." Giovanni gave a smile and said, "Ah. But it is him who led you to her. It was not the God who existed in the sky that led you to him." "No." Giovanni pointed towards Naruto's heart and said, "But here. The one who led you to her is the God that exists in your heart. That kindness and bravery that you exhibited is the manifestation of the will of God." Naruto looked at Giovanni incredulously. He then asked, "But what you say, does it not go against the teachings of the church?" Giovanni smiled at Naruto and said, "It depends on how you look at it, child. True, to say that God exists in your heart can be seen as blasphemous and an act of arrogance, but it can also be seen as an act of faith. It can be seen that God always exists in your heart and always has your back even in troubled times. He exists within you as he exists outside. Protecting you always. Both are one and the same." Naruto did not argue with the priest. He did not necessarily believe what the priest said but decided not to argue or ponder on the thought. Giovanni then said, "I do not have many fears, my son. However, my only fear is that when I leave this world for the next one, that whether what I have done with my life until my end meant something." Naruto smiled and said to Giovanni, "Only time will tell, Padre. However, from what I have seen you do, I do think what you did stood for something greater than yourselves, Padre." Giovanni looked at Naruto and said, "Go, my son. I must rest now." "Yes, must rest," said Giovanni and went to sleep. Naruto watched him go to sleep and smiled. He then said, "Good night, Padre." The next morning. "Padre, wake up. Padre. It is time for your sermons," shouted Naruto, but he did not hear any response from the old man. He went inside and found the old man to be in a deep restful sleep. It was then Naruto had noticed that the man had passed away in his sleep. He slept the eternal sleep of the dead with a smile on his face that had a look on peace on it. Naruto looked at him and said, "I, Padre, libero da fordeli paure, go forward father, free from your burdens and fears, requiescat in pace, rest in peace." Present time. Naruto journeyed to Rome by air. He did not have much baggage, only a small bag that contained some books and scrolls. He changed flights 2 times before he finally arrived at Rome. He then booked a bus ride to Vatican City. It took him a few hours, but he finally arrived at his destination. The city's officials were rather strict with checking the dress code and the documents. Well, who could blame them, as the city had its rules and was considered the headquarters for the Catholic Church. The city housed one of the most influential people in the world in all of Christendom, the Pope. Naruto did not make any issues and followed the rules of the city rather appropriately. He had some time before his meeting, so he took to touring the city's streets and sights. The city's architecture was mesmerizing with many grand and imposing structures like S Basilica, Castel Sant'Angelo and the Sistine Chapel. However, to Naruto it was uninteresting. So much time and resource had been wasted in building these grand structures when all the money could have been put to better use by helping the needy, thought Naruto. Naruto did not waste much time and took to visiting the Vatican Gardens. He felt the cold evening breeze on his hair. It was really soothing for him to hear the whispers of the cold and lively wind that brushed by his face. He felt at peace, relaxing in nature's embrace when he felt his eyes covered by a hand. It was a warm and delicate hand that had a soft feeling to it. A voice whispered behind his ear. "Who am I?" Naruto knew who it was. So he said who it was immediately. He said, well, back to playing games are we, Gabriel?" He felt the hands leaving his face. He turned around to find a pouting Gabriel who said, "You're no fun, Naruto. You guessed it on the first try." Naruto grinned and said, "Well, there is no one else I know alive who has your soft hands and beautiful voice." Gabriel, who heard that, playfully hit Naruto while blushing. "Idiot. You always flatter me like that." "Well, I do speak the truth." It was then their conversation took another turn when Naruto asked, "So are we ready to go, Gabriel?" Gabriel shook her head, "No, we still have some time. I thought that maybe we could enjoy the evening. Just the 2 of us." Naruto did not say anything and moved forward. Gabriel, who did not hear a response, turned sad thinking that she was rejected. However, she then heard, "Well, what are you waiting for? Let's go," said Naruto with his fox-like grin. Gabriel, who heard that, gave a grin of her own and caught up with Naruto. The rest of the evening were spent by the 2 friends touring Vatican City, taking up all the sights it had to offer. They had dinner and had a wonderful time together. However, it was finally time that they moved on to business. They moved towards the Apostolic Palace. The guards who were stationed there recognized Gabriel and allowed entry for her while bowing his head towards the seraphim. He wondered who the other person might have been, but he knew that that was none of his business. He then silently guided them to one of the doors. It looked very grandiose and entrancing with various ornaments decorated on it. The guard said, "His Holiness awaits you inside, Lady Gabriel." The pair of seraphim and human moved towards the door and opened it. They entered the large room where there was a big table. In the room they spotted an old man wearing white robes and a white zaketo. He had a pair of glasses on his face. Beside him there was another unannounced visitor which Naruto did not expect. However, he was not all that surprised. "It has been a while, Archambault. How do you fare, old friend?" asked the young man. "Better than you, I suppose. Though I am not all that surprised to see you here. May we get on to business?" "Michael?" asked Naruto. The now identified Michael smiled and said, "Gladly. And? Well, it's been short, but let's just end this there for today, alright? It has been a big day and I really want to take some rest and play some more Assassin's Creed." If you were wondering about the quotes that Naruto said, yes, they are ripped straight out of Ezio's quotes, cause in all fairness, I do not know Italian. I am just learning it in my free time. The 10th chapter of The Gardener is still under progress, so I will be postponing the update schedule for that story for another 2 weeks at the most. I have some problems with the layout of the chapter and need to work things out. Other than that, move. The chapter is over. What are you still doing here? I told you party's over. Go check out the other novels if you have some free time. You still haven't left. You want more? No, I am going to play Assassin's Creed 2 pronto. Arrivederci mio amicos. I suppose I could just continue and write out this part. Sometime later. Well, that went better than I thought I would, said Naruto. You were rather sincere in your demands. Said Gabriel. HMPH. Sincerity brings you nowhere when people's greed come into the equation. It was mere luck that the Pope was rather amicable, unlike Pope Eugene III. Said Naruto. Gabriel smiled wryly at the comment as she had no arguments into changing Naruto's mind. She said, so what are you going to do now? Well, first, get my things back from the vault. They then moved towards the Vatican archives. Gabriel vouched for Naruto, and the person in charge spoke to Naruto. Lady Gabriel said that you have something that you would like to retrieve from the archives. May I know what it is? Asked the bishop in charge of maintaining the archives. Naruto shook his head and said, no, it is something that I must retrieve myself. I would like access to the inner vaults, please. The registration number is 0013. Password is Sol Altramonto. The bishop who heard of this had his eyes widened, as there are not a lot of people who hid their possessions in the inner vaults. The registration number that Naruto had told was 0013. He took one of the records and checked the registration number and the password. Once everything was checked out, the bishop led Naruto towards the archives and then towards a hidden area which was well protected underground while carrying a torch. Gabriel decided to leave as she had some other matters to attend. The pair arrived at the vault which was numbered She. The bishop then asked. I am afraid that you need a key for opening the contents of this vault. Sadly, we do not have a duplicate key for this vault unlike the others as requested by the owner. Naruto shook his head, it is no problem. There is no need for a key. He then moved towards the door and placed his hand. Immediately a spiderweb of seals which the bishop identified to be Japanese words appeared on the wall of the vault. He was rather confused at why there should be Japanese words here in this place. The door of the vault unlocked. The bishop immediately said. I cannot look into the contents of any of these vaults as it is the policy for only those the owner be allowed to look into it. So please excuse me. He said so and left the area. Naruto opened the door to the vault and entered. The entire vault was empty with only marble floors. Naruto lit the place by lighting one of the lamps with his torch. The entire area lit up once that lamp was lit. At the center of the room was a single and lonely chest. Naruto went forward and sat in front of the chest in prayer. He then opened the chest and looked inside. Satisfied, he emptied the contents into a scroll by sealing it. He left the vault, closing the place which was now completely empty. Once outside, the bishop asked. Were you able to find what you seek, sir? Naruto responded, yes. Yes, I did. Nearly a week later. The three factions had decided to hold a peace conference between them. Unlike the non-aggression treaty, this was different as this treaty ensured true peace among the different factions which had been at war with each other since time immemorial. It had been decided the Kuo Academy as the meeting place for the leaders, and the place had been filled with security from both factions to ensure that no one makes trouble while the conference was going on. Issei, being a part of the Gremory peerage and a direct being involved with Kakabiel's mutiny, had been invited along with the rest of the peerage to discuss it in detail. Safe to say all of the peerage members, including the master of the peerage, were rather tense. They were meeting the big leagues of each faction and they did not want to screw it up by acting impudently. I wonder where Grandpa is now, thought Issei. He then thought of the time his grandpa had talked to them. Flashback. Issei, I want you to hide the fact that I am your grandfather from your friends. Said Naruto in a very serious manner. Why? Asked a confused Issei. Look, Issei, it's complicated, but trust me on this, alright? Before I retired from the supernatural world I made a lot of friends and a lot more enemies. Enemies that you cannot take on right now. If they find out that I have a living, breathing family member, then they would do anything to target me through you, and I don't want that. Not for your mother, not for your father, and definitely not for you. Said Naruto. Alright. I will keep a lid on it. Said Issei. Good, now you listen close. I am going to be away from the country for a few days. Don't ask me where, all will be revealed in time. Now various things are going to happen in the future. It is a gamble, but things are starting to look positive, so I want you guys to remain silent and not jeopardize this, alright? You will be hearing this from Rias, but the three factions have decided to hold a peace conference to discuss the Kakabiel fiasco. I want you to go along with the flow when I decide to turn up. No matter what happens, don't reveal your relationship with me or act as if you are familiar with me. Alright, Gramps? said Issei in a hurry. Naruto, who heard this, smiled at finally being called Gramps by his grandson. He then said, well, looks like we are done here. Let's talk about something else, shall we? Back to present. Issei along with the entire Grimoire peerage came to the peace conference except Gasper and Kaneko. Inside the room, he saw 5 other beings other than Surziches and Seraphol. He saw the old man who had been calling out to him for drinks, who had revealed himself as the leader of the fallen angels, Azazel. He spoke out. Arya's Grimoire and the Red Dragon Emperor. May I introduce you to the beings present here? I am already sure that you are aware, but my name is Azazel, and I am the leader of the fallen. Beside me is my lieutenant and right-hand man Barakiel. The other person is Vali, who is the White Dragon Emperor. Issei noted that Akeno gripped her hands tight when she heard the name of Azazel's right-hand man. He did not look deep into it. Azazel then continued. Well, to my right are the leader of the angels, the seraphim Michael, and beside him is Gabriel, who is also a leader of heaven. Hello there, it is nice to meet you, said Michael, to which Riaz responded. It is an honor to meet you, Lord Mikhail. The same goes to you as well, Lady Gabriel. Gabriel smiled and said, oh, the pleasure is mine, Lady Riaz, Red Dragon Emperor. Issei was asked not to say anything unless it was required of him. He simply bowed to the seraphim and said. It is an honor, Lady Gabriel, Lord Michael. Azazel then said, all right, now that introductions are away. Can we move on to business? Michael said, wait a moment, Azazel. We have one another who needs to attend the meeting. I believe he is running late. Azazel frowned but smiled, so he finally decides to show himself, huh? Well, this got a lot more interesting than before. Meanwhile, Surziches and Seraphol adopted a curious expression, wondering who the other person was. It was then they saw the door open. Sorry I am late, but a black cat crossed my path and I had to take the long road to reach the school, said the person entering the room. It was Naruto, however, unlike his usual self, Naruto was wearing some form of black and white robes, which had a red cross in the middle. He also wore a black overcoat which had the same symbol, along with a hood attached to it. His hands were covered in black leather gloves studded with metal, and on his waist rested a katana, protected in a red and white sheath. He had a metal plate on his right shoulder, and one could find a metal mesh underneath the robes and on his waist. He wore simple black boots and some leg guards. Azazel, who spotted him, said, HMPH. You are as tardy as ever. Naruto smiled and said, and you are still the horny bastard I knew you were back in the old days. Still, how are you, old friend? Oh, I am fine, no thanks to you, said Azazel. Surziches, who had been silent, finally spoke. Hello, my name is Surziches Lucifer, formerly Surziches Grimoire. I believe that this is the first time we met each other, so may I know who I am speaking to? Naruto looked at him and said, yes, of course, where are my manners? Let me reintroduce myself. My name is Archambault. Archambault de Saint-Amand, founding member, former spymaster and Grand Inquisitor of the Knights of Solomon's Temple. At your service. Knights of Solomon's Temple? Asked Issei with a confused expression. Riaz and the rest of the devils had the same question in their mind as they were unfamiliar with the name. Except Surziches and Seraphol, who had their eyes widened at the introduction, which showed that they knew of the group. Michael explained, it was a knight order founded by some influential people in the Holy Land during the 12th century. They were people who swore to protect the pilgrims who traveled to the Holy Land. By day they protected the pilgrims from the bandits and highwaymen, and by night they protected them from the terrors of the devils and maintained supernatural order in the Holy Land through support of the church. They were a rather famous group, inspiring modern conspiracy theories and many other stories passed throughout the ages. Though I believe you may know them by another name. They were called the Knights Templar. End. Chapter 5. Jerusalem 1118 AD. It has been 1 year since Giovanni died. 1 year since Naruto left the church in the hands of a new priest who took the position in place of Giovanni. Fortunately, Giovanni was able to keep some money aside for Naruto. Naruto got a letter from Giovanni addressed for him along with a coin purse. Giovanni wrote. My dear Archambault. The time we spent together had been short, I know. However, that time of my life was when I felt truly alive. I never knew my father. I grew up in the poor district of Rome along with my mother, who was a courtesan. I was only a bastard. In my teenage years, my mother had grown old and sick. We no longer had any of the money she earned during her healthier days. Thus I turned to thievery. I was able to save my mother with the money from what I stole, but that was useless as God had other plans. My mother died when a carriage ran over her. It was the first time in my life that I was truly sad. From a simple thief I turned into a murderer. I killed the noble who had killed my mother. However, all I felt in the end was emptiness. I started pondering over my life. What had I done? What had I truly accomplished with my life? In my quest to search for the truth, I met God. I felt a purpose. A higher calling. I came to Jerusalem searching for the answers to the questions everyone has. I spent 10 years here in this church searching for the answers. However, I did not get them. Even in my deathbed I still ponder what the answers might be. What have I accomplished? It was then that you came into my life. You gave me the purpose. You gave me a joy that I did not know existed. Those years I spent with you were the ones I truly felt as if I achieved something. Achieved making something, someone. You may not share a single drop of blood with me, however whenever I see you, only word comes to my mind, son. I thank you for being that son to me. I truly thank you for coming into my life. However, all good tales must have an end. So, go son, go do whatever you believe in. My only regret is that I don't have anything to give you. This coin purse is the only savings I had in my entire life in the service of God. Everything I stole or robbed, I had either spent or donated. Know that I am always in your heart. So are the others. Oh, don't look surprised. I know how a person looks when he longs for his family. You may not have been honest with me, but I am not one that needs to know everything that goes on in your life. Like I said before. Move on. Make new friends and have a new beginning. Do not let the past bind you from your future. So go. Live a good life. We will be reunited once more. I know this for sure. With love. Giovanni de Saint-Amand. Naruto had already started crying in the end. He thought that old man he knew he always knew, but he didn't ask. It was true that Naruto had been longing to reunite with his family. It was the only life he knew, and to separate from everything you know and still stay sane was a huge and commendable feat for anybody. Naruto thought. If not for me then for the old man. He had faith in me that I will live a good life. It is best I don't disappoint him. Naruto then took the old man's surname and lived in Jerusalem as Archambault de Saint-Amand. He used the gold coins given by the priest as a way to support himself until he started doing tasks for the people and earned more money. He got himself hired by the citizens of Jerusalem to protect them from the devils and other supernatural beings that harmed them. Naruto earned a lot of money in the beginning that he decided to later on act as a free knight. He went around and helped the poor districts of the city by giving them bread or helped the people get rid of the monsters in and around the city for free. Naruto became so popular with the citizens for what he did that he was heralded as the guardian knight of the city. An honor that was acknowledged even by the upper echelons of the city. There had been a lot of nobles that tried to hire him as their personal knight or even push marriages with their daughters. However, Naruto refused all of them in kind and said that he liked to live as a free man. It was one of these nights where he usually patrolled the area would he come across a pair of people that changed his entire life. He saw that a group of knights traveling by horseback were attacked by 12 devils. All of them were powerful as each of them had power equaling to that of mid-class devils, while the highest among them was a mid-high class devil. Naruto drew his sword and charged to the center of the battle. His footsteps were silent and he quickly executed one of the devils by beheading the poor fellow. Look out for this one. He is much stronger than the others, said one of the devils and attacked Naruto. Naruto immediately equipped his kite shield and blocked the attack of the devil. He then used the shield to bash the devil. The devil took this blow by surprise and was thrown off balance. Naruto took this chance to plunge his sword into the devil's heart, killing the poor fellow. He then kicked the devil off to the ground. His senses picked up another devil coming at him. Naruto immediately raised his shield to block the attack. He took the blow from the devil who also used a sword. Naruto deflected the attack and attacked the devil with his sword, which was blocked by the opponent. Naruto closed the distance between them and gave the devil a rotating kick to the devil's neck, turning the devil into a headless corpse. He then noticed one of the knights with only a sword engaged in a blade lock for a moment. He noticed that the devil was gaining momentum on the knight. Naruto threw his shield at the legs of the devil. The shield hit the devil by surprise and the devil lost his footing and the momentum he gained. The man took advantage of this and deflected the sword, allowing the man to fall down on all fours. He then plunged his own sword into the devil's neck, effectively killing the devil. The knight then took out his sword back from the neck, allowing the corpse to fall. The man then looked at Naruto and gave him a stiffened short bow. Naruto did the same and blocked another attack from a devil. One of the devils was angered at the developments and shouted. Damn it. Retreat. We cannot use magic in this area as it will alert the angels. We will get you next time, human. We will have our revenge, said the devil, and he shouted at Naruto with all his might. The remaining 7 or so devils left the area as the knights cheered for their victory. The entire caravan rejoiced as the leader held his hand and shouted, silence. All the troops had become silent by then. The man looked like he was in charge. In fact, Naruto recognized him to be the person he saved. The man then spoke. You have come in our hour of need, friend, and helped us win against the demons. For that I am grateful. Please, may I know the name of our benefactor? Naruto smiled and said, it is only natural that I help a person in need. There is no need for gratitude. My name is Archambault. Archambault de Saint-Amand. It is a pleasure to meet you. My name is André de Montfort. This here is said Andre, but was interrupted by the man in question. I can introduce myself very well, Andre. It is a pleasure to meet you, Master Archambault. My name is Hugh de Payens of Troyes. That is the first time that Naruto met the man named Hugh de Payens. The man who became the first Grand Master of the Knights Templar. Present. Everyone had been rather stunned at the identity reveal. Riaz was the first one to ask the question. Hold up. I thought that the Knights Templar were only in the Crusades. There has been no mention of them being devil hunters. What is going on here? Azazel looked at her with an amused smile. He then looked at Surziches, who explained with a sigh, your lack of decorum aside, my dear sister, the answer to your question is that yes, they were in the Crusades, and they are also devil hunters. It comes along with their duty. Duty? Asked Asia. Seraphol responded, the Knights Templar were originally founded by 9 men who sought out to protect the pilgrims who traveled to the Holy Land. As Lord Michael explained, their main goal and duty was protection of those who come to the Holy Land to seek God and elimination of all threats. May it be the normal side or the supernatural side. They were the church's frontline troops in the Great War and did a lot of damage on our end by killing a lot of high-class and ultimate-class devils. Even the original Lucifer was impressed by them. Riaz asked confused, wait. If they were involved in the Great War, then why are we not educated on this? If they were that instrumental, then we must surely know of their group being involved, right? Surziches sighed and said, it is a complicated matter, Riaz. The group was later weakened after the Great War due to a number of factors after getting an initial rise in power. They were officially disbanded in the 14th century, long before you were born, thus seen as irrelevant to talk about. Though some say that they still exist in secret even today, they are no longer as powerful as they once were. However, this is only part of the reason as to why they are not recorded down in our archives. Riaz looked curious to hear the second part of her brother's explanation. However, it was Seraphol that continued this time. Well, let's just say that some devils were too prideful and too hateful at the group, as they were the only bunch of humans who killed ours by the thousands. So once they were disbanded, some of the older devils did not even wish to discuss about their group, striking down their names from the history books. Riaz finally understood what went on. She knew about the taciturn and petty nature of the older devils. It was Michael's turn to talk. He said with all seriousness, well, history lessons aside, I believe that we are here for another matter. I asked Archambault to be here as the mediator for the meeting between the factions, as he had been involved in this incident, aside from the fact that he has another proposition. All of them turned their attention towards Riaz, who took her cue and started explaining the event to the group. She spoke about the meeting with the exorcists from the church to how the rogue exorcist Fried Cizelin and Valpergolelli had been working for Cacabiel collecting the holy swords. She then spoke of their fight with the fallen cadre. Cacabiel attacked us after he set up a strong barrier which separated us from the rest of the world, making us unable to reach out to my brother or anyone else. It was then Uzumaki-sensei no Archambault-sen appeared. Said Riaz. Surziches, who was silent the entire time, had his eyes widened as this was a piece of information that Riaz had not shared with him in her earlier report. Surziches gave a look of confusion to Riaz, but Riaz ignored him and continued. Archambault-san appeared when we were in the middle of the battle. He was under disguise as Naruto Uzumaki and has been our history teacher at Kuo Academy for the past 7 years. He did not wish to interfere with us or the supernatural and acted as if he was unaware of the supernatural in the beginning. However, that changed at the near end of our battle with Cacabiel when he saved Issei Hyodo from certain death. He quickly revealed himself and eliminated Cacabiel with ease. He then left the scene after getting a promise from me, stating that I would not reveal the details of his appearance to anybody as per wish. He gave me permission to do so after this week has passed. Naruto then continued, please do not blame your little sister Lucifer-sama. It was my wish to disappear before anyone else who were aware of my identities caught wind of my presence in the city. Though things have changed since then, as I have some new goals to accomplish. Azazel laughed and said, well, that was a pleasant surprise. I did not expect to find you there. However, how the hell did you wind up inside the barrier without anyone finding you anyway? Naruto shook his head as if to say that he did not know. Surziches, who had been silent the entire time, bowed his head to Naruto and said, thank you, Archambault-san. Whether it was intentional or unintentional, your actions did save my sister and the rest of her peerage. For that you have my gratitude. Naruto shook his head and said, your gratitude is unnecessary, Lucifer-sama, as your sister has already paid her debt in full when she decided to keep her word. Surziches went silent and nodded his head. The conversation continued on until all 3 parties decided to agree. However, midway through the meeting, Naruto spoke with creased brows. I am afraid we have some unwanted guests. All of them looked at him before they realized that the time around them has frozen. Naruto calmly analyzed the situation and said. It seems that someone managed to freeze time, so this person uses the Forbidden Baylor view. Rias then spoke out, the one who has the sacred gear is a member of my peerage. But why would he? Naruto then said, no time to talk. Seems we are under attack. Then a flame spell was fired near the window. The leaders dodged the attack and looked outside to find their people being attacked by a group of magicians wearing robes and covered faces with hoods. However, all of these magicians had one symbol in common on their robes. Azazel, who saw them, was able to identify it. How's brigade? It was Naruto's turn to ask, so who are these people, Azazel? Azazel said, it's a group of terrorists consisting of members from different factions. They are a rather elusive group I had been researching about, but I did not find anything. Well, for now I believe they don't want the three factions to achieve peace. Rias then said, brother, it is highly likely that Gasper has been kidnapped by these terrorists. We need to rescue him to remove the effects of the sacred gear. Surziches gave them a nod and said, alright, I give you permission. Take 2 others with you. The rest can assist us in the upcoming battle. Rias bowed and took both Issei and Akeno with her. Naruto then coolly asked with a smile, well then, shall we go greet our guests? Azazel replied with a smile, we shall. Though this time leaves something for us, alright. Naruto pulled down his hood and raised his cloth mask until only his eyes were seen. He then said to Azazel. Who knows? If you are fast enough you may. Naruto then disappeared in burst of leaves. He then reappeared in front of the battleground. He slowly walked towards the mages, getting their attention. He slowly increased his speed and at one point ran towards them. The mages who noticed him fired a multitude of spells at him. Naruto dodged all of them. He made a quick jump into the air and beheaded the first magician. A knight came to attack Naruto from the front. Foolish. Naruto sidestepped and caught the knight's hand. He then threw the knight into a group of magicians aiming their spells at him. They came into contact with the knight at the right moment when their spells activated. The result was an explosion in their own ranks. Naruto quickly moved forward, countering various attacks from the magicians and the close combat soldiers of the group. He sliced through every one of them, targeting each vital area on their body. He weaved through the ranks fast and quickly without any hesitation or disturbance. He saw another rank of mages firing spells at him. This time Naruto used his shield to block the spells and he charged forward with the shield. The Magi did not expect their attacks to do no amount of impact on him and tried to move away from him, but it was for naught as they had found something embedded in their throats. Naruto had thrown his kunai knives the moment he blocked the spells. He then moved on to the next rank. However, this time he found himself to be in a bit of a pickle. Ahaha, foolish human. What are you going to do now that you are surrounded? Kill the bastard. Shouted one of the rogue people and everyone started chanting spells at him while the knights moved in. Naruto did not say anything but crouched slightly. The ground beneath him cracked. The leaders of the other factions were looking at the show with interest. Seraphil, who noticed the trouble Naruto was in, said, we need to help him. He has got himself surrounded. Azazel said, just watch Lady Leviathan. You don't know him like we do. Seraphil argued, he's going to get himself killed. He doesn't have time to cast magic and he's outnumbered 150. Each of those signatures are around the range of high-class devils and they are casting enough magic to decimate even an ultimate-class devil like Graphia. He's strong, but he's not that strong to come out of it unscathed. She could only detect a little magic from Naruto. He looked to be only at the range of a low ultimate-class devil. Michael laughed, trust us Lady Leviathan, he is way stronger than he looks. Just watch. Seraphil could only jaw drop at the confidence that these people had for the human. She thought, he's only human. How powerful could he possibly? Seraphil watched with an astonished look as Naruto jumped high into the sky, crossing the 50-meter mark and dodging the spells fired at him on the ground level. He then threw some kunai knives and shuriken at the attackers. Some of them were able to dodge the rain of kunai knives and shuriken, while some of them were hit in their vitals and were killed. The leader, who had been stunned by Naruto's action, said, what are you people waiting for? Get him. Once the word was said, all the magicians casted a variety of spells at Naruto. However, Naruto blocked all of them with his shield pointing downwards. None of them stopped his momentum while falling down. He then continued to fall down through the 20-meter mark before he sheathed his sword and kept his shield at the side. He then closed his fist and took a full swing at the ground. Devastation. The ground beneath him cracked into an open hole. The land beneath a 100-meter diameter was all blown into a crater as everything around them exploded in the impact. The attackers were blown away in the attack with no exception. Naruto did not say anything and he continued moving on. He redrew his blade and weaved through the ranks once again. More than half of the attackers were either unable to fight or killed. Surziches, who looked at this, was thoroughly impressed. He said, what a monster. He did not even break a sweat when he killed more than 200 people in less than 2 minutes. He did not even use any magic. Only a few normal weapons and some body strengthening magic, I believe. Even I am not that efficient. Serafal could only nod her head dumbly. Azazel laughed and said. Ahahaha. Seems we have no need to interfere this time too. This time too. So you have fought a battle with him last time? Asked Serafal. Azazel nodded and said, oh yes. It was in the Great War. More specifically, the battle at High Haven. Wait. He was there at High Haven? Asked a surprised Serafal. The younger generation who were with him could not follow the conversation and asked a question. More specifically, Kiba asked. What's the Battle of High Haven? Serafal replied, High Haven was a place in the fallen angel territory. As you know, the battle between the angels and devils had begun to affect the fallen angels as well, and thus the grasslands of High Haven became a battlefield for the three armies. This was one of the major battles in the Great War. The devils wanted to occupy High Haven as it was a strategic position closest to the dimension of heaven. Thus the devils attacked while the fallen defended their area. Meanwhile, God had created a temporary alliance with the fallen angels to protect the area. It was also the first time the Knight Templars fought in the Great War. However, back to my question, our friend was on the front lines. How is he still alive? He is human, is he not? Azazel said, yes, he is human. I don't know how he is still alive, I might need to ask him later on. But back to your question, yeah. He was in the front lines. Back then he was a tough nut to crack, which is evident even now. Azazel continued while reminiscing the past, you see, the thing about our good friend is that even though he was low reserves, he uses them with high efficiency. The techniques he employs requires years of practice and precision, but the end result is that the output is much greater than the input. He makes no wasted movements or attacks. That's why at the peak of his career, even though he only had reserves equivalent to that of a mid-ultimate class devil, he could fight mid-Satan class devils on even grounds. The devils in the room, including the Satans, were shocked at these words. They did not know that such an existence survived to this day. Azazel continued, though I am surprised that you don't recognize him, Lord Lucifer. I heard that you were quite a fan of the Knights Templar during your younger days. After all, he is the main reason why the devils hate the Templars so much. Serziches looked with a bewildered expression. Azazel continued, don't you recognize his robes and appearance? Doesn't he look familiar? I am surprised that you do not remember the person that made my brother Lucifer go mad with rage. Serziches then took a good look at Naruto with a surprised expression and thought, blue eyes, black robes, wields a sword and shield. Impossible. He should have been dead. The original Lucifer himself made sure he was, said Serziches. Azazel said, apparently not. Serafal, who was not all that familiar with the Templars or the Great War, asked, what is going on here, Serziches? Do you know who he is? Serziches nodded his head. Azazel said, well, almost every devil in existence knows him. Even if the Templars were removed from history, there are some stories that are passed within the Devil Society. Devil parents scare their children all the time with his name whenever they go out in the night, don't they? Serziches then recited something. Silent like the wind he rides. Within the cold and darkness he resides. Dressed in black robes as dark as the night skies. The only thing you may find on him is his haunting blue eyes. Run like the wind whenever you see him. He gave a pause and looked at Naruto before he continued. This time with a grim facial expression. For the blue-eyed reaper will tear you limb from limb. End. Chapter 6. Troyes, France. 1128 AD. It had been 10 years since our hero had founded the Knights Templar, along with André Montbert and Hugh de Payens. 10 years since he met the two fellow knights who shared his goal of protecting the innocent. Together they requested King Baldwin II for establishing the Knight Order. The king immediately gave approval to the request as Naruto had vouched for them. King Baldwin II trusted Naruto very much as he is the people's champion and his daughter's savior. A lot of things had changed since then. Naruto had grown into a handsome middle-aged adult. His shaggy blonde hair remained the same as his youth. His whisker marks, which were still present in his younger days in this world, were completely faded and was almost inexistent. He wore his Templar robes and had a shield behind his back. The shield had the red cross symbol on it. His will of fire hung by his waist stored in the sheath. Beside him were his friends Hugh de Payens and André de Montbert. The one thing in common among them aside from the robes were the signet rings they wore on their right ring finger. Naruto was walking along with them but had a sour face, while the two others had a somewhat happy expression. André, who looked at him, said, cheer up, Archim. This is a happy occasion for us. If all goes well, we may get more recruits into our ranks. Naruto, who looked at him, sighed and said, look, André. I love you like a brother, but the same can't be said for that nephew of yours. André gave a wry smile and sighed, I know that you and Bernard have your differences, but can't you see that he is on our side? André wanted to convince Naruto that this was not a bad thing. Naruto, who heard this, said, I know, my friend. However, our differences are far too wide. He only sees it as a way to induct us into the church. Helping the innocent is secondary in his mind. Yu, who heard this, sighed and said, however, we can protect them better if he succeeds, Archim. If the Pope officially recognizes us, we will be able to get more funds and move more freely. Naruto replied, at what cost? At the cost of our freedom. If things go the way they intend to, then sooner or later we will be part of their armies. Serving them. Not the pilgrims. Andre sighed and said, that will not happen, Archim. The foundations of our order will be compromised if that is so. Besides, we don't have a choice. With the way things are, we cannot afford to protect the Holy Land if we cannot buy our knights better equipment or even proper rations. Your name and fame can only be used in and around Jerusalem, my friend. There still exists a world outside that city. If we intend to protect all of them, then this is the only way. Naruto did not refute their words as he knew it was true. He can only earn that much with the way they do. Together they entered the conference. Naruto then saw the sights before him. Many men of the church had gathered in the hall. He, however, saw that the seat of the Pope was empty. The one who stood before the seat said, welcome, brothers. Since His Holiness, Pope Honorius II is busy with other matters, he has sent me to attend in his stead. My name is Matthew and I am very honored to be allowed to speak here in his stead. We, the devoted, are here to discuss the matters of God. But first let us pray. Pray to him that we are successful in whatever endeavors we may face in this council. They then started praying to God as requested by Matthew. Naruto watched on as the abbots, the archbishop in attendance, prayed for a while. Once it was done, Matthew announced, let the council begin. The people present started discussing various matters. It took such a long time that Naruto would have fallen asleep if it were not for Andre, who stamped his foot whenever he almost did. Naruto was annoyed with the council, but finally he heard Matthew talk. Father Bernard would like to say something to all that are present here. Father Bernard, if you would please. Said Matthew, calling out Bernard of Clairvaux. Naruto then saw Bernard of Clairvaux. He was a balding man dressed in black robes unlike the others. He stood with a proud smile, but in it, one can find a hint of craftiness to it. He then said, good men present here today. I would like you to introduce you to the knights standing before me. They are known as the Knights of Solomon's Temple. They were formed 10 years ago when 3 men, Hugh de Payens of Troyes, André de Montfort and Archambault de Saint-Amand, decided to do God's work to protect those who seek God from the highwaymen and the bandits on the path. They also exist in order to protect the citizens from the devils attacking our sacred city. The city where the Holy Son of Mary died for our sins. He then went on to talk about how the Templars and their accomplishments in full detail to those present. Naruto looked without any form of expression on his face. He was not required to talk, and even if he was, Naruto doubted if he would. Once the men acknowledged their presence in the order, they set the rules for the monastic order. Naruto scoffed at the rules as he knew that he was not going to follow them. Some of the rules made sense while the others were absurd. Not wearing pointed shoes. Come on. It was then that their hierarchy was decided. Matthew turned toward Hugh and said, by the right vested in me and by the will of the Pope and in turn God, I appoint Hugh de Payens of Troyes as the first Grand Master of the order. You shall command the order and answer only to the Pope. May God shall guide you well on your path. Hugh said, I humbly obey. Matthew said, then we leave it to you to decide the authority of those who work with you. Now then, let's move on to other matters. The council continued on with the same prattle with arguments with regards to something for another 2 days. Naruto and Andre were given permission to leave as their presence was no longer required in the meeting. However, Hugh was not the same because this time he was representing the order. He gave both Naruto and Andre a look of a betrayal when they chose to abandon him. Naruto and Andre grinned and left the meeting while snickering. Naruto was on his own now as Andre told him that he had some matters to attend to in the city. Naruto walked alone in the evening when a voice came from behind. Master Archambault. Naruto turned to look at an abbot. Naruto recognized him to be one that attended the council yesterday. He asked the abbot in a kind and friendly way. What is it, father? Is something the matter? The abbot did not expect this kind of attitude from Naruto as he had only seen the stiff and expressionless Naruto the day before. He returned the smile with one of his own and said. Forgive me for disturbing you on your walks, Master Archambault, but an important person would like to see you. They would like to meet with you in person. Naruto said, very well. Lead me on then. Both Naruto and the abbot went around in circles. Naruto noted that the abbot was taking some kind of precaution to avoid people tailing them. They took to the crowds and then came out to a rather small church in the city. The abbot opened the door and gestured Naruto to go inside. Naruto did just that. He looked at the interiors of the church to find no one there. He looked behind to ask the abbot. There is no one. However, the abbot was already missing. The door was now closed. Naruto immediately went on alert and unsheathed his sword. He took it out and said, whoever you are. Show yourself at once. You called me here, did you not? Here I am. Naruto heard a womanly laughter echo within the church. The voice said, you need not worry, I mean you no harm. If that is so, then why do you not reveal yourself? Asked Naruto while tightening the grip on his sword. He then felt a presence behind his back. Naruto immediately turned back and held a sword against the neck of a female. It was one of the most beautiful females Naruto had ever seen. She had hair with a beautiful shade of blonde and was dressed completely in white. Her eyes were big and were a mesmerizing shade of green. However, the thing that stood the most about her was the 6 pair of wings behind her and the halo above her head. Naruto recognized her and asked with a dumbfounded face while lowering his blade, why you are an angel. The angel laughed, but Naruto heard another person laugh, this time, it was a male. He then heard the male speak, please. You have to forgive Gabriel. She is very playful by nature and does that all the time whenever she finds something or someone interesting. Naruto then looked behind to one of the seats in the church occupied by a male. He looked to be aged around 40 to 50 with the amount of wrinkles he had on his face. He also had blonde hair and the same shade of green eyes that Gabriel had. Naruto felt a holy presence around the man as he spoke. The man had a mirthful face and smiled at Naruto with droopy eyes. Naruto tried his best not to look away from the man as he spoke. Who are you? Why did you call me here? Strange. Strange indeed. What willpower you possess. No mortal had been able to speak to me while looking me in the eye. Said the male with a surprised face. That is not the answer to my question. Answer me. Who are you? Asked Naruto. The man smiled and said, I created the Alpha and the Omega. I made the angels, the humans and of course indirectly the devils. I am called by many names. The Father, Creator, God. However, for simplicity's sake, just call me Yahweh. Naruto said one word at the supposed creator. Bullshit. He then walked away, opening and closing the door to the church, leaving the stunned god and angel behind. Back to present. Naruto was battling the continuous sections of mages and knights when he heard a voice in his head. HMPH, show off. Well, look who finally decided to talk. Why did you take so long? Asked Naruto. It was kind of boring being around with you. Talking to all those pathetic bats and pigeons. A nice nap sounded better than hearing the jargon coming out from their mouths. Said Kurama. Show a slight amount of respect, Kurama. Some of them are my friends, you know. Said Naruto with a wry smile. Kurama ignored him and continued, and I wake up to find you playing with these small fries when you could have just erased them without breaking a sweat if we worked together. Staying all day long cooped up in your body is not helping me control my destructive tendencies. Even I need a good stretch sometime. Well, sorry but I cannot go all out now, Kurama. I don't want to reveal all my power to these guys. Most of them still don't know about you. The time will come where we can rock and roll, just like the good old times. So be patient, alright? Said Naruto. HMPH. Look out for the one in front of you though. She's a grade higher than the other bats that fly around you. Told Kurama. Naruto looked at his sides to find the faction leaders fighting the others beside him. He then noticed Azazel who came near him and said. Sorry, we just could not let you take all the action yourselves. Though it seems we finally know who our attacker is. You are as insufferable as always, Azazel. Said the woman. And you are as vain and pathetic as always, Kateria Leviathan. Azazel then asked, so a descendant of the original Leviathan, trying to take back her title from the current Leviathan. A worthy opponent. Kateria said, there has always been one and only one true Leviathan, and that is me. That bitch is just an impostor. Azazel said, well that is your argument, but that is not the only thing that you are aiming for, aren't you? Kateria said, as informative and sharp as ever, Azazel. Yes, we do not just seek the titles, but the entire world. A world that without God or the original Satans belongs to us, the true Satans. Azazel laughed and said, oh man. What a cliché villain you are. World domination, can't find another reason, can you? Kateria said, silence. I had enough from you. Kateria then turned towards Naruto who had been silent all the time and asked, unlike Azazel, you are one enigmatic and strong man. Why don't you come and serve me? I will reward you real nicely if you do so. It is an honor that I laid my eyes upon you, human. If it had been anyone else, I would have just killed them. What say you? Naruto said, no thanks. Though I have to ask if you finished rambling on about your goals so that I can kill you and be done with it. Unlike this dumb fuck. Hey. Interrupted Azazel. However, Naruto ignored him and continued, I have places to be and things to do. I need to go and continue playing The Last of Us 2. Azazel said, oh yeah. I heard that the game is pretty good though it did come out with mixed reviews. How is it? Naruto then responded, yeah, it's pretty cool. Naughty Dog did a good job with a new character, but I kind of hate her because she. Azazel said stop. Stop. Don't spoil the game, you motherfucker. Don't you dare finish that sentence. Naruto said while scratching his head, I'm sorry. Azazel sighed and shouted out, sorry my foot. Why do you do that every time you screw me over some way or the other? Naruto huffed and said, it's not my fault that Julie thought you were a piece of work. Azazel said, I was this close to getting laid. And you had to come and carry her off like a princess. You fucking prick. Not only Julie but Andrea, Katarina, fuck even that chick Marilyn Monroe. Naruto said, hey. In my defense, Norma was hot and you were just not her type. Besides, I saw that you were too desperate to get laid after you got dumped by Queen Victoria for her husband. You were hung like an elephant. That's why Norma was not into you. I am not that desperate, just a tiny bit. Said Azazel, enraged at the revelation. Kateria, who heard this, got enraged. Why you? Stop ignoring me. I take back what I said. You are even more annoying than Azazel. She then blasted spells at both Azazel and Naruto, who dodged them and attacked Kateria together. She shouted, fight me one-on-one, like true men. Aren't you ashamed for ganging up on a woman? Naruto and Azazel looked at each other and smiled. They said together in chorus, nope. Kateria, who heard this, took the full brunt of their attacks. She noticed Azazel taking out something from his breast pocket. She asked, what is that? Azazel said, now this is a thing I have been working on for a while now. I want to test it out. He then activated the artificial sacred gear, changing into a golden armored balance breaker form, and said, it is an artificial sacred gear I developed. I call it the Downfall Dragon Spear. They then attacked her together. Naruto was clearly holding back as he did not want to waste energy fighting her and at the same time trying to finish it as soon as he can. Kateria took more blows from the pair of human and fallen. She then coughed some blood and said, shameless. Naruto interrupted her, what's with the accusation? We are not ganging up on any woman. Then what the hell do you think I am? Asked an even more enraged Kateria. This time both of them once again said in chorus, definitely not a woman. They then punched Kateria together, making her fly away by 100 meters before she regained her balance. Naruto did not give Kateria the chance to recover and continually attacked her. He said, don't get me wrong, you are a female, but not a woman. What the hell is that supposed to mean? Said Kateria and launched another volley of spells at the pair. Naruto was able to dodge all of them, while Azazel got hit by some of them. However, he did not even look fazed by the attacks. Azazel then said with a smile, it means that while you are a female, you are not a human. A woman is a female human, whereas you are a female devil, which means that the criteria doesn't hold good for you. Kateria spat blood at the logic provided by the pair of human and fallen angel. She thought, damn, I need to get out of here. Azazel saw that she was going to escape and charged at her. He said, I don't think so. You are not leaving this place alive. He fired multiple light spears at her. She dodged most of them, but some of them still made through. Light magic was every devil's weakness, and Kateria was no exception to this rule. 3 of the light spears embedded her body. One on her right and left thighs and the other on her left shoulder. She shouted out in pain and fell forward to the ground. Azazel went forward to finish the deed. He then asked with a cocky smile, well then. Any last words? Kateria looked up with a smile. Azazel, who noticed it, frowned but recognized that she was preparing herself for self-destruction. He tried to get away, tried, but Kateria caught his leg with her right arm, which had lengthened. She then said, if I am going to die, then so will you. She activated her magic, which resulted in an explosion in a 50-meter radius. Naruto coughed and said, be more careful next time. Yeah, I will be. Said Azazel, who had survived Kateria's explosion unscathed. Naruto was just in time to save Azazel. He quickly cut off Kateria's hand that was holding him and disappeared in a flash of yellow. Azazel then asked with a curious expression. What was that technique you used? I know that you are fast, but not that fast. It is a new technique I mastered after the war. It's not all that impressive. Said Naruto, trying to downplay the topic. Coming from you, not all that impressive is a huge compliment. Said Azazel. Naruto then said, well, we can talk about it later. It seems that Gremory and her group were successful in removing the effects of the Forbidden Baler view. Azazel, who finally noticed that time was moving again properly, said, great, those who were freed from the Sacred Gear's effects can take care of the small fries for us. I do not sense any more powerful signatures. We just need to take care of the gate summoning the magicians. Naruto said, seems like we don't need to. The user of the Forbidden Baler view is taking care of it. He then pointed at the sky where the gate magic collapsed. Azazel then said, so our work here is done. Naruto replied, not so fast. Mind explaining to me why your disciple subordinate is fighting with the Seihaidu over there? Azazel then saw Vali attacking the Gremory group. He shouted out, Vali. What are you doing? This is not the time and place to fight the Red Dragon Emperor. Vali, who noticed Azazel shouting, gave a grin. He shouted out. Sorry Azazel, however there has been a change of plans. Well, it seems that your subordinate is going rogue. Said Naruto. Why can't you just stay put? Bad volley, bad, shouted Azazel. Naruto then asked, so you are the traitor that became the link to the gate magic, huh? I did not guess that you would work willingly alongside Office, Albion. Things change, Reaper. Said Albion, confirming Naruto's words. Office? Shouted out the rest of the group. So you knew? Asked Azazel. Naruto snorted, like I could not recognize that energy that Kateria used. Bali then said, well, this side of the game is rather interesting. No offense, Azazel, but things were getting rather dull for me and your group. Azazel said, dull. Well, that would explain it. Though I do guess you joining the group doesn't surprise, seeing as you are a descendant of one of the old devil kings. Wait, what? Shouted out the rest of the group excluding Naruto. Naruto looked at him and said, white hair and a devil king's descendant. So you are one of Lucifer's kids, aren't you? Valley then introduced himself, that's right, my name is Vali Lucifer, my father was the grandson of the original Lucifer, while my mother was a human. I am a half-breed. He then looked at Naruto, I must confess, I did not know who you were when we met, but I finally remember. You are the ghost of High Haven, aren't you? I heard many things about you from my father, well, the bastard was still alive. Naruto remained silent. Issei, who was curious about knowing more about his grandfather, asked, wait, so he's famous? Instead of Vali, it was Surziches who answered, famous is an understatement. He is a legend on the battlefield. He was publicly acclaimed as the strongest human and has many accomplishments, but one stands above all. Riaz asked, and that is? Surziches said, he bested the original Lucifer in single combat and cut out his right arm. Bali, who had been silent the entire time, said to Naruto, I know that I am still not strong enough to beat you, Reaper. However, I hope to have a great time battling you in the future. He then turned toward Issei and said, though Issei Hayato, you are the one I want to fight the most. I want to ultimately prove that I am the strongest among the heavenly dragons once and for all. Issei said meekly, no thanks, Vali. Right now I have something to protect. Vali said, is that so? That's a shame. It is a good thing that you have something to protect, dragons grow much stronger when their emotions are amplified. It seems you lack a motive to fight against me. How about I give you one? I can kill your parents and you can come fight me to get your revenge. An avenger. That's a good reason, is it not? Issei, who heard that, got excited and said, you sick bastard. Leave my parents out of this. It then, as expected, turned out to be a skirmish between the dragons. Azazel asked, are you not going to interfere? You do have the power to stop the two. Naruto shook his head, no, I want to see Issei's potential like Vali does. Anyone with half a mind can easily find that Vali is just taunting Issei. If Issei loses, then this will be a good lesson for him. Azazel, who heard that, said, wow, harsh as ever, aren't you? You do know that there is a chance for one of your students to die, right? Naruto snorted and said, my teaching methods have always been the same, Azazel. I will only interfere if things blow out of proportion. Then the fight between Issei and Vali happened until Biku interfered and called Vali back. The pair of them left via the darkness. The attack was finally over. Everyone relaxed and the members of the three factions tend to their wounds. Naruto, who then looked at the faction heads, asked, well then. Since this place has already been compromised, it is best we leave for safety. It is unwise for us to hang around. The rest, who heard the suggestion, agreed. However, Surziches interfered and asked, wait. One more thing. When Michael said that you were mediating, he also said that you had a proposition to make. I believe we still have some time to hear it. Michael said, yes, I agree with what the Lucifer said. Naruto then looked at Azazel, who shrugged his shoulders and said, well, I can't be the only one not complain when all the others agreed. So go on. Naruto said, thank you for giving the time. Naruto then continued, in short, I wish to reinstate the Knights Templar Order, but with a new purpose. All the present members except the Angel faction leaders had been stunned. Azazel, who heard that, laughed and said, ha 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 ha, it seems something interesting popped up. End. Chapter 7. Troyes, 1128 AD. It was the next day after Naruto had met the Seraphim Gabriel and the person who called himself God. Naruto woke up to the morning sunrise and did some stretches. He opened the windows to the room he was staying at to get some fresh, cool air. He then did his morning rituals and went for a walk. Naruto went downstairs and asked the proprietress of the inn about his friends, as he did not find them in their rooms. He then heard that they had gone for a meeting with Bernard. Naruto figured that it must not involve him and understood that if he went there, matters will only get worse. He then decided to go for a morning walk around the town. The town had nothing much to offer except some hard-working town folk going about their business with a smile. He went by the city market to buy some fruits to eat while on his walk. As he was walking among the crowds, he felt a presence of a hand on his shoulders. The guy who put the hand said, is it that annoying to listen to me? Naruto snorted and said, oh please, like I would listen to a guy who likes to bullshit. And there it is again. Why is it so hard for you to believe that I am God? No, I believe you are the God that my friends and these people on the streets worship. What I don't believe is that you are the creator of the Alpha and the Omega. God stayed silent at that. Naruto continued. The others can be fooled but not me. I have seen creation firsthand and understand the intricacies. You may have created some humans like Adam and Eve, but you did not create all the humans. That is because each human requires a soul, and if I go according to your faith, the soul either ascends to heaven or descends to hell. If that is so, then you have to be constantly creating souls. Each soul, even that of a baby, requires a huge amount of energy to take form. The amount of energy you have does not explain the amount of souls present in this era. The math does not work out. It was then God asked, so how do you explain the creation of humans, then? Simple. The existence of other pantheons. The heathens, or so your religion has come to call them. They also help in creating the humans by supplying their energy, do they not? God, who had heard this, turned silent. He then started chuckling, soon the chuckling turned into a full-blown laughter. However, no one noticed the presence of the being, as if he did not exist. God said. You got me. You got me real good. You are a bright one, aren't you? Like I said before. I just know a lot of stuff. Though I suppose you did come here when you found out that there was a guest to your world. Haha, I found out about you long ago. I found you when you came to this universe. You were an abnormality, as you were not tied down to any of the basic laws for the soul in the universe, only the physical laws such as time, space and reality. However, you had an energy that I have seen before, a type of primordial energy that I use for creation. I did not know how you had it, but I was curious. So I thought I can help a fellow being out. So you were the one who led Padre to me, didn't you? I did. Giovanni was a kind man. He may have suffered and inflicted suffering in his youth, but he more than made it up for that by his repentance in his older days. How is he? He is doing fine. He is happy where he is and finally found the answer he was looking for. That's good to hear. The both of them remained silent for a while. Naruto was silent because he was reminiscing about the days he spent with Giovanni. Yaoi was silent because he read Naruto's mood. They went back to the church where they earlier met Gabriel. She was excited to meet her father once again, like a puppy that had been waiting for her master. However, the moment she noticed Naruto, she stomped her foot and turned her face to the other side with a cute pout. Naruto, who saw this, thought, see, cute, but coughed the next moment. He then gave a wry smile and said, I apologize for my actions yesterday, Lady Gabriel. Gabriel huffed in a cute manner and said, it is not me that you should be apologizing to. Naruto looked at God, asking for the answer. God said with a smile, it seems that Gabriel wants you to apologize to me for your swearing yesterday. Naruto, who heard this, coughed. He did not mind apologizing to Gabriel, but he did not want to apologize to him. He looked at God, giving him an innocent smile, but Naruto knew better. Under that smile he saw an irritating smile that he recognized as one of his own. The smile he gives when he pulled off a fast one. The smile of a prankster. He then looked at Gabriel, who did not turn to talk to him. He found her face to be cute. Too cute that he eventually gave in to the cuteness. Naruto thought, fuck it, cuteness for the win. Naruto then gave his apology while gritting his teeth and stressed each word, I am sorry, God. Please forgive me. God gave Naruto a smile. Oh, you did not have to apologize. I am not so petty enough to remember your passing remarks. Naruto actually spat blood at that comment. He then thought, enjoy your victory while you can, you piece of shit. You don't mess with the king of pranksters and think you can get away. The war has begun, bastard. However, all those thoughts were crushed when he saw a worried face of Gabriel in front of him, innocently asking him, are you alright? Naruto looked at the face and thought, she's too innocent. Must protect her. His brotherly instincts had popped up right at that time. He then said, no worries. I am not so weak and fragile, you know. Gabriel smiled at him and he gave a smile of his own. However, after a few moments, he turned serious and looked at Yaoi. He asked. I think it's time you finally tell me what's going on. I don't suppose that you are here to visit me just because you were in the area. I know that you are far too busy for that. What do you need from me? God turned serious and said, you are right. I do need you to do something for me. I suppose I'll do it, but of course don't expect it to be free, said Naruto. He may have been part of the God's forces now, but still he was a shinobi at heart. So as any shinobi, he expects to get paid for his services. The free night thing he does as a Templar is different because there he serves the people. No, I don't. I will give you something of equal value for what you do for me, replied God. So, let's hear it. What is it that you want me to do? Asked Naruto. In essence, I want you to protect somebody, replied God. Oh? I don't hear the exact details, but what will you offer in exchange? Asked Naruto with curiosity. God looked at Naruto for a moment before he uttered two words. Your soul. Back to present. Everyone had been rather stunned at the announcement Naruto made. Who wouldn't be? Here is a guy who just came out of nowhere and reveals that he is going to recreate an order which had been disbanded for centuries. Surziches was one among the devils who recovered from the supposed shock first. He asked curiously, what purpose? Naruto answered, it is easy to create a peace treaty, but difficult to maintain it. I wish to reinstate the order to keep the peace between the factions. Surziches said, I see. So what is it that you want of us? This order you recreate is still part of the church and thus part of the angel faction. Naruto said, that will change when you also recognize the Night Order. Surziches, who saw it, finally understood what Naruto was asking, so you want to create a Night Order of angels, devils, humans and fallen angels, so that you can keep the peace among the three factions and punish those who wish to disrupt it. Naruto said, exactly. There is a requirement for this so that we can be the mediator for the three factions. With the Chaos Brigade, I suppose there is a necessity for this like never before. Surziches asked, I like the idea, but there is a catch, isn't it? Naruto said, I suppose I cannot hide it from you. Here are the terms, take a look. He then threw a small cube which projected a holographic projection of the terms. Surziches read the terms and said, well, I have to say that this proposition is a good one, but what you are saying will not be agreeable to most of the devils. Riaz then asked, what is it, brother? Is there a huge disadvantage for us? Surziches then said, not per se. Look at term no. 69. Riaz and the rest of the group saw it and were stunned. It was Issei who shouted, wait, so you are saying that each king devil must ask permission and that must be approved by an executive before he can reincarnate a human as a devil? Seraphil said, I can see why you are putting that, but a lot of the devils will oppose this. They do not want to listen to a human. Their pride won't allow that. Naruto said, that only describes your inability as rulers. Seraphil said, excuse me. Naruto said, do not protest. It is merely the truth. If the devils cannot listen to the word of their ruler, then it describes the inefficiency of the ruler themselves. Seraphil stayed silent, however she clenched her fists. Issei, who had been confused, asked, wait, can someone explain to me what's going on? Naruto sighed and said, Issei, God created sacred gears for the humans so that they can protect themselves from the devils of that time. However, with the evil P system in line, the sacred gear users are seen as weapons by each of the three factions. Each faction wants to grow stronger than the other. The devils, however, have the greater advantage in this area. They are able to forcefully reincarnate humans as devils, making them slaves. You are lucky to have Riaz as your master because she treats her servants like family. Not all of them are like that. This only seeks to destabilize the peace between the factions. Surziches continued, by what you are proposing, devils are still able to reincarnate others, but only those who are willing. You are basically acting as the screening for the humans. Naruto said, yes. However, it is not only the devils who are compromising, the angels and the fallen must also compromise. Michael nodded and said, the angels along with the church are willing to give more territory for the other factions to operate. Azazel said, yeah, it is kind of a drag for me to willingly give my research results away, but if it is for the peace, then I am alright with providing the techniques for creating artificial sacred gears. They might be weaker than the original ones, but it is still a reasonable substitute. Naruto then unfolded a piece of paper from his breast pocket. He then read it out loud so that everyone could hear. By my authority as Pope and by the will of God, I, Pope Francis, hereby reinstate the Knights of Solomon's Temple. The Knights Order will be led by Grand Master Archambault de Saint-Amand to help keep the peace between the factions. The order is granted complete autocracy from the church and allows it to respond to no one except the Seraphim Archangel Michael and Archangel Gabriel. Naruto said, coming back to your earlier statement, Lucifer. For now I am only answerable to Michael and Gabriel as they are the leaders of their factions and must know why I do what I do. The Pope has given the order complete autocracy, which allows us to set the rules, meaning that the Catholic Church has agreed that it will not interfere. The Protestant Church will be taken care of by Michael. If you and Azazel agree to this, then I am answerable to you two as the leaders of your factions. Naruto then said, I know that this proposition will have a great deal of opposition in your rule, Lucifer. However, you must decide. This treaty between the three factions can only be made permanent when the devils compromise. Surziches then thought for a while. He said, I am afraid I am powerless in the matter. This matter concerns the whole of Devil Society. Even as a leader I am still responsible to my people. I need to speak with the council before we can move on in this matter. Naruto said, fine. However, I am coming to this council. Surzich's eyes widened to untold degrees. He said, wait, what? No. Your presence there will only cite more chaos. You of all people know that most of the older devils hate you for your previous actions. They will kill you. Naruto said, that's precisely why I am coming. I am going to settle this once and for all. Fear not, I will not reveal myself if they cooperate. However, if they don't, then I might have to resort to intimidation and blackmail tactics. Surzicha said sarcastically, oh gee. How wonderful your brain is. What kind of blackmail you possess to convince the entire Devil Society? You have to have blackmail on at least 37 of the main families if you have any hope of winning them. Naruto smiled and said, you can leave that part to me. I have my ways. Surzicha did not question the man's confidence. He knew that the man always kept his word indicated by his previous actions. Surzicha said, alright then. I will ask for the council to convene. It will take a few days to get everything ready. I will summon you before the meeting starts. Be prepared. Naruto asked Azazel. Azazel said, well, I doubt Shemhazel is the only one going to complain this time. However, the proposition does give some benefits. So count me in. Naruto, great. Michael said, so ladies and gentlemen. It seems our business is concluded. It is best we do not linger here any longer. All the faction leaders nodded and left to do their own business. Seraphil gave Naruto a cute pout and showed her tongue at him before teleporting. Naruto thought, what the hell was that about? Ria said, so, what now? Are we okay? Naruto said, I thought I already told you. We were even from the beginning. Ria said, oh, that's a relief. I really don't want to face an opponent like you. Naruto smiled and said, trust me, you can search the entire universe, but you'll never find another opponent like me. Ria smiled at that comment. She however asked with a weird smile, Uzumaki-sensei? Naruto replied, yes Rias. Rias tweaked with her fingers before finally thought, oh. What the hell? Let me just go for it. Naruto looked at her reaching out to her school bag. He thought with tears in his eyes, oh. She must be having some problems in her homework. What a dedicated student I have raised. However, that thought of his was shattered to a million pieces when he finally heard her speak. Could you sign this for me? That idiot brother of mine was too shy to ask because of the presence of other faction leaders, but he said that he wanted an autograph from you. He said that he had always been an admirer. Naruto thought, a autograph. He then began to chuckle, then the chuckle turned into a full-blown laughter. He took a pen from his pocket and signed on the notebook as Archambault de Saint Amand. He looked at Rias and said, do you want a signature too? Rias shook her head, nah, it's fine. Naruto then said, well, it seems you guys had a long day. Why don't you go and rest up? We can catch up later. Rias said, yeah. Some rest sounds nice. See you later sensei. The rest of the peerage including Issei bowed and said, goodbye Uzumaki-sensei. Naruto waved goodbye to them. However, he called Issei and said, Issei. May I have a word with you? Issei looked at him and then looked at Rias who said, go. I'll be waiting for you back at the house. Issei then nodded. Rias and the rest of the peerage vanished via teleportation magic. Once they were alone, Issei asked. What's up Gramps? Naruto turned stern, making Issei sweat a little. Issei then asked, what happened Grandpa? Is something wrong? Naruto sighed and said, there are a lot of problems on my mind Issei, but you are the one who concerns me right now. Me, what did I do? Asked Issei, pointing to himself. Naruto said, Issei, tell me honestly. Do you believe yourself to be strong? Issei turned silent at that. He knew that he was weak as compared to Vali or the rest of the peerage minus Asia. He can barely hold his own in a fight. Naruto said, you are weak Issei. You are too weak. Not in the sense of your fighting capabilities but on your resolve. Resolve? Asked Issei. Naruto nodded, tell me. Why do you fight Issei? Issei did not have an answer at first. He thought long and hard on the question. He then said, I don't know. If you had asked the same question to me 2 months ago, I would have responded that I want to become a harem king. However, right now thinking on what you said, I doubt whether that is what I fight for. Naruto said, you are thinking. That's a good sign. Tell me the answer when you come up on it. However, know this, a person's potential is measured by the strength of his resolve. Every successful person is successful because they have that resolve. Having the resolve is the first and fundamental step. Meditate on it. He then continued, other than that, I have to say that you did pretty good in today's battle. However, remember this, it is never a good thing to lose your cool in front of your enemies. I understand your feelings when Vali threatened your parents, but learn to hide those feelings. Show your anger through your actions, fuel that anger as energy, but do not let it consume you. Don't let your anger turn into rage. If you do that, then you will only fall into your opponent's trap and do as they will. That's all I wish to say to you. Issei asked, wait. Why did you say this to me? Naruto shrugged his shoulders and said, I said it because I felt it. You have potential Issei, great potential. With Drake by your side you can accomplish many things. A harem is just a small prize. I want you to grow strong that you may protect yourselves and your family. Now go back home. It's already late and I am sure Mickey will be worried back at home. Issei asked, one last thing. Naruto looked at Issei and cued him to go on. Issei took a deep breath and asked, would you be willing to train me and the rest of the peerage? Naruto smiled at Issei and said, nope. Issei looked shocked at that, he asked, but you said. Naruto sighed and decided to explain himself. He said, I told you that I wanted you to grow strong, but never once did I say that I'll help you get stronger. I want you to do that on your own. I need you to find your own strengths and weaknesses. You have friends, Issei. You have plenty of resources. Just open your eyes and you will see an ocean of knowledge. Besides, my style of combat is not suitable for you. Kaneko may come close to what I use, but she cannot inscribe my technique into hers. Issei, who heard the explanation, turned silent. He was a little disappointed that he cannot get his grandfather to train him, but he accepted the reasoning. Naruto, who saw that, sighed further before he smiled. Alright, change of plans. Let's go get some ramen together. Alright with you? Issei, who heard that, felt a little better. He nodded. Both of them went to the ramen stand they visited last time. All in all, they had a good time until Naruto decided it was time to leave. Sometime later. So the first step of your plan is complete, said Kurama, stating it as a matter of fact. Almost. The devils have yet to agree, said Naruto. I see. Though this group you are trying to create, it has another purpose, doesn't it? Asked Kurama. Yes. The group will exist to keep the peace, but being the head of the group, it also allows me to move more freely and investigate the whereabouts of the Sephiroth Graal, said Naruto. He then unsealed a box from the scroll he took from the Vatican. He had more or less stored all of his original possessions on him, but this box and the robes he possessed were stored away over there. He then dusted the box and opened it. Inside he found a silver ring which had a red cross embedded on it. Kurama said, I hope you did not go through all the trouble of accessing your vault just so you could retrieve a piece of jewelry, no matter the significance. Naruto said nothing. He inputted a slight amount of his magic. The ring gave a blue projection of the world with golden lights, along with some names. Kurama saw the spots moving and looked at some of the names. Is that? Asked Kurama. Naruto said while grinning, these are going to be the new faces of the order. I had that annoying bastard, God, fashion it for me as payment. Getting all sentimental, are we? Asked Kurama with a knowing look. The guy may have been annoying, he may have been an asshole, but he was still a good friend. A loyal friend. Thought Naruto. Even if he did not admit it, he missed the poor sod. Naruto noticed all the dots and names on the map and saw the nearest one among them. Twice critical, is it? Well, a better start as any. End. Chapter 8. Troyes, 1128 AD. Naruto, Yahweh and Gabriel were standing together. However, Naruto was taking an offensive position while keeping a hand on his sword so that he could draw. He asked God. Is that a threat? God looked amused and said, no, it is not a threat if that is what you are thinking. If not, then what is it? Last time I checked I was still alive and healthy. That must mean that my soul should be within myself, said Naruto in a serious tone. God laughed and said, I see, so you don't know. Naruto asked confused, no what? God said, well, let me rephrase my earlier sentence. I offer you to restore your soul. Naruto looked as if he understood what God was talking about. God smiled and said, well, you seem to be catching on quickly. I don't know by what means you came to this world, but it seems that the process has inflicted a huge damage to your soul. You, as of now, only possess 1/100th of what you possessed. Naruto thought, well, that would explain why Kurama is sleeping and why I cannot generate much chakra as before. My soul is incomplete, meaning that the spiritual energy I possess is down by nearly 100 times. The sage said that the chakra produced is mostly physical and only slightly spiritual. By his estimates, the physical to spiritual energy ratio is 21. If my soul is divided by 100 times, then that must mean that my reserves are reduced by around 2000 times. No wonder I cannot create no more than 2 shadow clones. He then concluded, Kurama cannot wake up because he exists in a spiritual body unlike me who is both physical and spiritual. His consciousness has been divided into 100 pieces and thus taking a huge mental strain, making him go into a deep coma for his mind to restore properly. He thought for a while and then asked God, if I do this for you, will you really restore my soul? God said, that is the offer, yes. Naruto then said, alright, deal. What do you want me to do? God then said, like I said before. I want you to do some protection. But before that I want to ask you something. God looked at Naruto in the eye and asked him, what do you know of sacred gears? Naruto responded, I know that they are weapons of power given to the humans so that they are able to defend themselves against the devils. I also know that they are targeted by the devils at a young age to get rid of potential enemies. That's true. I want you to protect someone who possesses a rather powerful sacred gear. The devils see it as a threat, said God. Naruto said, well alright, so how long will this mission stand for and when can I expect my payment? God said, I will be honest with you. I don't know how long, but you can expect your payment after you complete your mission. Naruto frowned and asked, why can't you do it now? God sighed and said, I can, however I am pressed to do it with all the pressure I am facing. Yaoi then pet Gabriel on her head and gave her a smile. Gabriel was feeling sad that she could not help her father and was disappointed with herself. However, that sadness was gone when her father had pet her head like always. She reveled in the warmth of his hand and felt her worries go away. Naruto, who saw this, did not comment. However, he was confused and so he asked, what ordeal is putting a being like you under pressure? God said with a grim face. He sighed, war. I see war on the horizon. A war between the angels and the devils. My wayward son, Lucifer, grows more ambitious every day and is amassing his army of devils to strike me down and prove himself to be the ultimate. He wishes to conquer this world. Naruto, who heard that, also turned grim. He sighed, there is always war, no matter what era, no matter what universe. War always exists. Naruto then continued, enough about that. You have yet to inform me the details of my mission. God smiled and said, I do, don't I? Naruto said, so go on, shoot. Which sacred gear holder you want me to protect? God answered, Sephiroth Graal. I want you to protect the holder of the Sephiroth Graal, otherwise known as the Holy Grail. Naruto nodded his head. He was not all that familiar with the sacred gears as it was still an unknown to him, but he knew of the strongest class of sacred gears. He knew about the Sephiroth Graal and the True Longinus and the 9 other sacred gears that were out of God's control. Other than that, he only knew a few like Sword Birth, which Andre unlocked after a few years they created the Templar Order. Alright. I will do it, but there are 3 things you must do, since there is no guarantee that I will get my payment on time. It won't be unreasonable. God found it reasonable, alright, go ahead. Ask what you want. Naruto said, my first request. I want you to give me the ability to use magic. You can see that I am not nearly as strong as I used to be, so I need something else to train under, so that I can improve and protect your target. God nodded his head. He found it reasonable and said, alright. That can be done. Adding magic reserves to your body will not be a problem. The magic reserves of your body is related to your soul, but it is completely independent. Though I do need to peer into your memories a bit as I have to tamper with your mind so that it does not reject it. We can start immediately if you can agree to that. Naruto hesitated a little. However, that hesitation was soon out of his mind. He thought, what the hell? Nothing he learns will serve as a weakness to him. If he wanted to harm me, then he could have already done it anyway. Naruto nodded, alright. Do it. Yaoi nodded his head. He then moved forward and touched Naruto's head with his ring finger while closing his eyes. A light grew from his hands and soon started growing until it blinded the entire room. Naruto felt stronger than he did before. Yaoi reopened his eyes and said, it's done. Though I have to say, you have lived quite an adventurous life in your old world, my friend. Naruto smiled, yeah, it had its ups and downs, but that's life, isn't it? God nodded and said, yes. Yes it is. So what is next? Naruto said, I want you to give me the ability to track any and all sacred gear holders wherever they are. God frowned, but he grew curious for his reasons and asked, why would you want that? Naruto said, the devils target these sacred gear users at a young age. With my resources, I can track down only a few of them, but if I am able to locate wherever they are, then I may be able to train them so that they can protect themselves and in time protect others who suffer the terror of the devils. God, who heard that, understood Naruto's reasoning. He then asked for Naruto's ring. He used his powers of creation and added a function to the ring. The ring glowed brightly before it retained the same silver like it did before. A blue projection came out of the ring with various golden dots on it with names of sacred gear near it. Naruto estimated them to be in the range of 100,000. He said, this ring allows you to locate all sacred gears. It will give you a projection of their location on the globe along with the name of the sacred gear. I have imprinted this ring into your soul so that only you may use it. Use it wisely because I don't know what the other pantheons will do when they hear that you have this ring. Naruto took the ring and placed it on his finger. God asked, so what is your last request? Naruto said, leave it be for now. I will ask you when the time feels right. God said, as you wish. Naruto asked, so when I start working? God said, the target will come to you this evening along with an escort. Naruto said, then our business here is concluded. God said, yes it has. Naruto asked, then why are you still here? God dropped all form of serious talk and said, cause I am bored. Naruto hit Yaoi on the head and retorted, do your work properly. Gabriel said, hey. Don't hit my father. Apologize right now. Naruto said, what? Not this shit again. No way am I going to apologize to this lazy bastard. Look at him, he is taking his job like an ass. Odd, who heard this, cried comically and said, lazy. I am not lazy. Even God needs a break once in a while. Do you know how much paperwork I need to do every day? Even Michael has abandoned me, saying that he had some other job to do. That traitor. I did not sleep for 4 days straight. If you call me lazy, then come do my job. I will gladly hand it over to you. Naruto once again hit God on the head and said, take your work more seriously. Gabriel once again said, hey. Bad Naruto. Bad. Bad. Naruto said, don't treat me like a dog. God hugged Gabriel and cried, oh. Gabby, you are the only one who truly supports me all the time. I love you. Naruto, who looked on to this interaction, thought to himself, well shit, an idiot father and a daughter with a daddy complex. Just what the hell did you get yourself into, Naruto? I only hope that the next person I meet is not a nut job like these two. Little did Naruto know that that evening he was going to meet the craziest person he ever would in his life. Back to present. It had been 2 days since the faction meeting. Naruto had returned back to teaching a class normally. So did the others. Riaz and Sona had a lot of questions to ask him. He gave up some details, seeing that they meant no harm, however most of what he said were half-truths. He did not give up any information with regards to his familial ties or his relationships, even the fact that he did not come from this world. Only a brief account of his battles. The only problem he had right now was the annoying ass that was laughing at him while everyone else were wondering what was going on. However, they did not dare come near the place in fear of hearing something they are not supposed to. Ha. What's up, Grandpa? Do you need your medications? Ha. Laughed the said annoying ass. Naruto huffed and said, great, not even a day has passed since you joined here and here you are already trying to blow my cover. Shut the fuck up, Azazel. Or I will make you. Azazel did not stop laughing and continued to wipe the tears he had gained from his laughter. He said, oh boy. The ladies must like you now. Except the fact that the ladies are old cronies and codgers. Ha. Why in the world did you choose your identity as an old man anyway? Naruto snorted and said, because unlike you, I am leading double lives. I am just an ordinary high school teacher here. So please don't go and reveal to the world that I am here. Azazel slowly stopped laughing and came to a complete halt. He then asked, so I guess, this is how you have been leading your life for the past 60 years. Naruto nodded his head and said, yeah. I came to this country 60 years ago and posed as an orphan. I graduated high school in Tokyo and taught for a while there before I came to this city. Kurama shouted out in his mind, idiot. Don't give up information so easily. Naruto asked in his mind, what do you mean, Kurama? Kurama snorted and said, forget it, the damage has already been done. Now try to manage and cook something up. Naruto said, what do you mean? I am trying to make sense here. Kurama snorted, just wait and see. He's asking the question. Now Azazel asked, so why did you come here? Naruto finally understood what Kurama was on about and thought, damn it. I should not have said that. If he is still the curious mind I think he is, then he will search about me and eventually arrive at Mickey. Think, Naruto. Think. How to get rid of his curiosity. Naruto said, I met a woman in Tokyo. Lived with her for 10 years there before she died by a car crash. I don't know why, but I started to think about her in my later years over there. She had been on the back of my mind like many others. Even her, it was too painful, so I left for Kuo when I got a transfer offer. Back then, the devils had still not come to the city. If I had known, I would never have come here. Azazel did not talk and patted his shoulders. He said, you always have it rough when it comes to women, don't you? I am sorry I asked and reopened old wounds, my friend. Naruto shook his head and said, it's alright, you did not know. Azazel shook his head and said, well, enough of that. So how about we go have some sake? For the good old times. Naruto narrowed his eyes, hold it. It is 2 p.m. If I remember right, then you should have a class at 2:10. Azazel, who tried to sneak away, said, oh come on. They are just a bunch of high schoolers. Besides, it's just math. They can figure it out themselves. It can be a self-study session. Naruto shook his head and said, nope. You are not going to bunk a class on your first day. You are coming with me. Hashimoto-sensei. Take my place and do these mark entries, will you? I will come by later after I show Azazel-sensei here to his class. Hi Uzumaki-sensei. Naruto then said, come on. Get your ass up. We are going to your class. Azazel said, hole. However, he was interrupted when Naruto dragged him out of the lounge by pulling his ear. Hashimoto saw that they were out of the room. However, he still could hear the conversation going on outside. Ouch. 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 Stop that, I can walk by myself, asshole. Do you Osea? Why the hell did you hit me in the balls, bastard? Arg. Stop hitting me in the balls. This is to get back at all the laughing I did before, isn't it? Why no don't hit me in the balls again. Wait, where the hell did you get that golf club? Don't you dare hit me with that. I will shut up. I will shut up and listen to you, my dear senpai. Please don't hit me in the balls with that. Shinosuke, who had come to the lounge by another entrance, heard the conversation and asked, so what's going on? Who is the guy that was yelling about balls before? Hashimoto said, oh, nothing much. Just Uzumaki-sensei beating up a new guy who refused to work properly. Shinosuke, who heard that, said, oh? Is that so? Poor fellow. Hashimoto said, yeah. He should have known better than to piss Uzumaki-sensei off. He was laughing like crazy at Uzumaki-sensei, we don't know why, but I guess there is a story there. Still, he should have seen it coming. May his balls rest in peace. Shinosuke said, I think you are supposed to say rest in peace, Hashimoto-sensei. Hashimoto responded, after how he was manhandled by Uzumaki-sensei. No, I am pretty sure it is in pieces right now. Shinosuke could not argue. He went back to his station and started doing his work. This had become a normal thing for the teachers anyway. It's not the first time they have seen Uzumaki-sensei act like this. One should know better than to cross the line with him. It's not worth it to pick a bone with him on any subject. Later that day. It was in the evening. Naruto had already left for home via his usual transportation means. He did not linger in any place longer than he needed to and went straight home. He relaxed for a while over there and slept in his bed. At that moment, he got a message from Surziches via his summoning circle. He found out that he will be teleported in 20 minutes if he understood the timer set in the circle, so he got himself ready by then. He wore his Templar robes and armor and strapped his sword to his waist and shield to his back. He took some scrolls along with him and some weapons like kunai and shuriken, just in case things get ugly. He waited in Voila, he disappeared in a flash of red light. When he reappeared, he found himself to be in a rather large room with a bed and some refreshments. Surziches was waiting in front of him with a smile. Welcome back to the underworld, Lord Reaper. We are in the room designated to me while we wait for the council to begin, said Surziches. Do not call me Reaper, Lucifer. That way of addressing is a little too stiff for my tastes. Call me Archimbo or Archim. My friends and those who knew me in the temple called me that way, said Naruto. Surziches smiled and said, well then I ask that you do the same with me. Please call me Surziches. Naruto said alright Surziches. Surziches then said, I don't think you have met my queen here, have you? She was rather busy when the meeting started so she could not attend the meeting. Graphia said, it is nice to meet you, Lord Archimbo. Lord Lucifer has said a lot about you. Naruto said, it is nice to meet you too, Lady Graphia. Graphia said, I am just a servant, Lord Archimbo. Please just call me Graphia. Naruto said with a smile, anyone with half a wit could find out that you two are married with the way you carry yourself. You do a nice job in hiding it, but I am not that blind enough to not notice the subtleties. Though I have to wonder why you still dress as a maid. Graphia was shocked. She knew that her marriage with Surziches was no secret. They even had a child together. However, to a person who was not all that familiar with happenings in the underworld in recent years, to find about the alliance was rather impressive in her books. Surziches answered for Graphia, you are right. Graphia is my wife, but she is also my servant. I wanted her to stop doing that, but she said that it had to do something with her identity as Lucifuge. Her logic is that the Lucifuge house had always served the Lucifer as servants, and thus it is her duty to serve the current Lucifer, which is me. Naruto said, well then, I don't want to question that anymore. Some people have their own agendas, I guess. Though I have to say, you do a terrific job as a maid. Graphia heard the compliment, bowed her head and said, I thank you for the compliment, my lord. Surziches smiled at that and then turned serious and asked, the council will convene in a few moments' time. Do you have all the things you need? If this goes bad, then it will be on both our heads, Archim. Naruto nodded his head. Surziches then heard an announcement signifying that all members had arrived and that the council could begin. Alright, this is it. Here, this is a tool that will allow you to see the meeting firsthand via projection, said Surziches. Naruto said, good luck out there. Surziches nodded and said, the same to you, my friend. I only hope that things go the way they need to be. If they don't, then I will summon you. I hope you know what you are doing. Naruto said, trust me. It will be fine. Surziches nodded once again and left the room via a teleportation circle. In the council room. Surziches had gathered in front of the devils present in the room. He saw all the current heads of the 72 pillars along with one of their subordinates. By his side was Graphia. Her face was stoic, but she too had been worried for her husband's welfare. She did not want this to turn ugly. Surziches then saw the other Satans who had assembled by his side. Seraphil waved at him while Ajuka bowed his head. He greeted the two and finally noticed that Falbium was asleep like usual. Surziches then addressed the gathered crowd, greetings to all that are present here. I had asked for all of you to gather here to discuss the events of the peace conference at Kuo Academy. One of the older devils, Zekrom Bale, said, "We know why you have called us here, Lord Lucifer. Please carry on. We wish to know what has happened." Serziches nodded his head and said, "Well, thank you, Lord Bale. As you may know, a peace conference had been arranged by Lord Michael after the events that had come to pass in Kuo the last few weeks. Though we had some intrusions, the peace conference was more or less successful. We no longer have to fight with the fallen angels or the angel faction." It was the head of the Astaroth clan that spoke now. "Intrusions." Serziches nodded his head and said, "Yes. We were attacked by a terrorist group who calls themselves the Chaos Brigade. It seems some of the old Satan faction that survived managed to join the group. Kateria Leviathan had sprung a surprise attack on us, however we were able to get rid of her soon. We had a traitor within the conference who had formed a link for a gate magic that summoned human magicians that attacked us. We were able to get rid of all of them with some casualties on all three factions." Albium, who had woken up, asked, "How strong is this Chaos Brigade? Are they a threat?" Serziches nodded and said, "Very much so. They have other unknown groups mixed with their ranks. Their strength is unknown, but we do know that the one leading them is the Infinite Dragon God Office." Several hushed whispers went throughout the council room. All of them were scared when they heard the name. Who wouldn't be? After all, she was one of the three great beings. Zekrom was the one who spoke now. "What does Office want? Do we know any other members of the faction other than the old Satan faction?" Serziches turned grim and spoke, "We don't know what Office wants. The only ones we know of as of now are the White Dragon Emperor, who also turned out to be a hybrid devil, and the great-grandson of Morningstar Lucifer. Other than him there was one of the descendants of the victorious fighting Buddha, Bhikkhu, his name was, I believe. Other than them, we draw a complete blank." More hushed whispers went through the council. One of the 72 pillars said, "How are we going to deal with this group, Lord Lucifer? Are we going to stage an attack?" Serziches shook his head and said, "No. We cannot do any such thing. We are powerless to fight against them. Office itself is already troublesome as it is, but combined with the White Dragon Emperor, they are a force to be reckoned with." Now cries of fear passed out through the halls, with many of them arguing among themselves. Each of the houses were of a different opinion, thus creating a commotion among them. Serziches announced, "Silence. I demand silence." However, his cries were useless as they still argued among themselves. Serziches narrowed his eyes and said while releasing his powers, "I said silence." The hall turned silent at that. He then said, "We are not able to face them alone, that is the truth. Luckily we are not alone. The other factions have also realized this threat and are willing to work along with us." There were hushed whispers once again. While most were relieved that they were not alone in this matter, there were a few voices who did show their dissent on the matter. Zekrom asked cautiously, "Can we trust them, Lord Lucifer? I believe this is a scheme made by the other to weaken us." Serziches said, "There is no scheme or ploy in this matter. The other factions have laid out terms for the peace treaty. I urge you to read through them." They all read the peace treaty on the screen displayed in front of them. However, once it was read, there was an outrage. One of the more open voices in the group shouted out, "What is the meaning of this? They want us to get approval from this reinstated Templar Knight Order before we can use evil pieces on humans. This is unacceptable." Many other voices agreed. They all shouted out that it was not fair for the devils and vehemently opposed the term. Some of the older devils were already opposing the proposition as the word Templar left a bad taste in their mouths and they did not wish to see those knights again. Zeodicus asked, "I can understand why they laid out these terms, Lord Lucifer, but the problem is that we are controlled by this group in regards to power." Seraphil said, "It is no secret that the evil pieces system has its disadvantages with regards to recruiting peerages forcefully. This Templar Knight Order wishes to put a stop to that. They will not interfere when the human recruit is willing to serve. However, if it is found out that they are forced on the issue, then there will be punishments involved. This is what they seek." Serziches nodded and said, "It is as Seraphil said. They are asking us to compromise on this issue. Personally, I am inclined to this matter because what we lose is less as compared to what we gain." Ajuka Beelzebub, who had been silent all the time, said, "I stand by what Serziches said." "Lord Beelzebub," shouted out some devils. Ajuka said, "For far too long we have had issues with regards to forced recruiting. I did not predict this when I created the evil pieces and have long been trying a way to prevent this from happening. Thus I completely support agreeing to the terms." Some of the younger devils who heard their leaders talk in this manner also thought about it themselves. They agreed that what they lose is just a small thing compared to what they gain. However, the older devils like Zekrom opposed this motion strongly. They did not want to lose power. Zekrom said, "Who is the one that shall lead this reinstated Templar Knight Order?" Serziches said, "A human who is not related to any of the factions. At least not anymore." There were even greater outcries at this. The devils cannot accept this because it was a human who leads the order. Their pride is too big to bow down to a human. The argument went back and forth for a while until Surziches asked, "Enough. Let's decide this by a vote. All those in favor." Surziches saw that a few hands including his father and the Citri family head had risen their hands. He sighed and asked, "All those who are against." He then saw many devils who raised their hands. It was an absolute majority. Surziches sighed and looked at Serafo. He then saw her giving the signal with a wry smile. Surziches gave a wry smile of his own. He said, "So be it. I did not want to do this, but I more or less knew that this would be the result." Zekrom narrowed his eyes and said, "What are you insinuating, Lord Lucifer?" They then heard a voice in one of the corners, "He is saying that he did not want me to get involved, Zekrom." All of the devils looked at the speaker. They saw an intruder who had barged in their meeting and shouted, "Intruder! Intruder! We have an intruder." The guards who were outside came rushing in. They went towards the said intruder with their weapons in hand and rushed towards him. The intruder merely walked towards the place while ignoring the warnings of the guards. He released a tremendous amount of pressure that made all the weaker devils fall on their knees, which included the guards, while the stronger ones were on high alert. The intruder slowly walked to the center of the stage. The older devils who had seen him recognized him and shouted out, "Impossible. How is he here? Why is he still alive?" The intruder who turned out to be Naruto in his Reaper persona. He then looked at Zekrom Bale. Both of them looked at each other with narrowed eyes before Zekrom decided to talk. "I thought you were dead, though I suppose the dead do not walk on two legs and talk like you do they? It has been a while, Archambault." Naruto said, "It sure has been, Bale. Now then, why don't we get down to business?" Surziches only shook his head at the reckless way Naruto entered the hall and thought, "Well, let's just get this over with." He said, "This is no intruder. Allow me to present you Archambault de Saint-Amand, founding member, former spymaster and Grand Inquisitor of the Knights of Solomon's Temple, aka the Ghost of High Haven. He is the one who will be to lead this Knight Order." And what if old Naruto was in Highschool DxD? End here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.